How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Pillow Talk with Paul Goneau. My guest today is musician and comedian Bonez Poley.
Hi. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. So, I'm not sure if you get this question a lot. And I just want to start off because, I've genuinely been thinking about it. Bonez, the name. Stage name, real name, nickname that you got, somewhere, through music or comedy or when you were younger, possibly.
It's all of the above. So it's not my real name in the sense that, no, my parents didn't name me that. But it's my real name in the sense that that's what everyone's been calling me for at least 15 years. I consider my old name my dead name, or jokingly my slave name. The only people who use my slave name are the cops and my parents, and I'm not a fan of either of those groups of people. So
so it's always weird when when someone's saying it, it's like, fuck, I'm in trouble.
Exactly. Yeah. People are always like, oh, what's your real name? I'm like, first of all, you wouldn't ask a trans person their dead name. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And I am non-binary. And when I embraced Bonez as a nickname initially, I hadn't realized yet that I was gender fluid. And now that I identify as gender fluid, it makes sense to me that I have a non-gendered name. Bonez can be anything.
Because I was like, it's possible that her
yeah, it's possible my parents were as weird as me.
Just maybe, both anthropologists,
right.
Or into the show.
Yeah,
or I guess that wouldn't be as old
I was before the show.
Yeah, how old are you?
David Boreanaz was still on Buffy when I was a kid.
Okay.
So, and I've never seen the show Bonez. Everybody always is like, oh, Bonez like the show, and I'm like, I guess.
It's one of those shows, I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I'm not ashamed that I like Bonez. I love Bonez.
Okay.
But I would never say, by any means, it's a great show.
Right.
I know what it is. It's corny, and it's delivering you, these same things. And, I always appreciate, the intros are always of just, random actors that were just put in for the intro that do, the scream.
Okay.
It's, this, cheesy scream. And I just,
that's fine.
Sometimes it's just, the cheese is nice,
right.
It's nice to not be so serious, but
I feel that. I didn't realize it was a cheesy show. I did, but I thought that they were trying to be serious. But again, I've never seen it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it started off like that, maybe, but then, after a couple seasons, they knew what they were and they knew their place, and they, I think, played into that a lot. They did appearances on Family Guy and American Dad, where they were kind of poking fun at themselves and stuff that, So
respect for sure. Respect to anyone who doesn't take themselves too seriously.
So, did you name
So the name was born.
Pick it?
It was born from an inside joke, and it started with. So in short, I've had a million shitty minimum wage jobs, and I never take any of them seriously.
Yeah,
it's just you just go there and fuck around until you get fired, basically. So I was working at a call center with an old friend of mine, and this is years ago, and right off the hop, day one in training, they hand us all a name tag, and we're supposed to write our name on it. And instead of writing my name, I drew this gnarly fish skeleton, and I was just writing that as a name tag. It was funny. And then some normie guy, some bro dude that worked there was like, oh, what's that supposed to mean? What's your name supposed to be? Bonez? And I was like, yeah, actually it is. And I just answered deadpan like that. And then my friend who I worked with continued to call me Bonez the whole time we worked there, and we just thought it was hilarious. And then it kind of spread to our group of friends where they all started calling me that. And then MySpace became a thing. And when I signed up for MySpace, I didn't want to put my quote-unquote real name. So I was just I'm going to put Bonez. And then it just snowballed into I just became Bonez. And it got to a point where I was like, yeah, this feels more like my name now than my old name, so I'm just gonna keep going with this.
Yeah, and that's actually a pretty awesome story too of how it came to be.
Thank you.
I've been thinking about just because I hate my last name. I was raised in foster homes and stuff like that, and I don't really have anything positive attached to my last name.
Yeah.
So I'm always now that I'm doing this stuff, it's I don't want to bring shine to this last name.
Right.
Maybe and then. Over COVID, I got into crypto.
Okay.
And I was kind of coming up with the name, and someone had my name on there, Paul Goneau, and I was just out of nowhere, I just kind of took off the A and the U, and it was Paul Gon, and I was like, oh,
That sounds punk as fuck.
Like, that's kind of cool.
That has a really good ring to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I say go with it.
Yeah.
And it's close enough to your current name that if you change it now, it's not like people won't like know who you are. Like it's a, you know what I mean? It's a seamless enough transition.
Mm-hmm.
I say go for it.
Yeah.
That's
I've been debating. I also originally, and I'm definitely not going to go with this name, but originally I was like, oh, Verizon. I'm going to change my last name to Verizon. Paul Verizon.
Too much like Verizon.
Oh, yeah? I'm not going to go with that anyway. If I was going to do anything, it would be...
Does that mean something? Or
just Paul Verizon.
Oh, Paul Verizon.
Like when you say it together,
How
it just
did I not
funny,
pick up on that?
Yeah.
So I used to DJ on this like FM station, but it was out in the boonies, and my DJ name was Paul Verizon.
Oh, dude.
How did I not pick up on when you said Verizon? Why did I not instantly realize that? One of my email addresses is still paulverizon@gmail, and my most recent album that I put out with Pisser, like there was a song on the album called The Paul Verizon. Yeah, so that's the Paul Verizon is definitely but I spell it. I decided my own spelling for it is the more heavy metal way to spell it, so it's instead of ER, it's OR, like pulverizer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I dig it. So is that like that? You moved from Kingston?
I grew up in Pembroke, which is kind of near Kingston. Yeah,
okay.
It's like 3 hours from Kingston, but closer to Kingston than here.
All right. All right. Still a bit off though, yeah. Pembroke.
Yeah, there's no reason to know where that is. It's a shitty town.
I feel like I've heard of it before. I've definitely never been there.
There's several places named Pembroke,
okay.
And I imagine they're all lovely, but Pembroke is the worst place in the world. Yeah.
You were born there?
I was born there, raised there, dropped out of high school at the age of 15, and also moved out of my parents' house then and fucked off and never looked back.
It's a kind of smaller town?
So it's a small town, and then it's surrounded by even smaller towns. It's like the big town in that area, but it's still really small. And then, like small enough that we had, like it was big enough that we had 2 high schools, and all the other farm communities bust in to come to ours. So there's like the public one, the Catholic one, but then that was like comprised of maybe 15 or 16 different small farming communities that all went to those, like those high schools.
What school did you go to?
So I was raised, my elementary school was in the public school system, and then I got horrendously picked on and tormented all throughout elementary school. I was always just like the weird kid, which, you know, when you're a little kid and you're weird, people pick on you, but then when you're an adult and you're weird, people look up to you. So I'm glad that I didn't, change. But because I got so picked on in elementary school, my parents thought they would do me a favor and move me over to the Catholic system so that I could have a fresh start for high school. So I was going to go to this new school, not know anybody, and not get picked on. And the way I decided that I was going to not get picked on is I showed up on the first day of school wearing electric, shiny, fucking pleather, like purple pleather pants and black lipstick. And, like, my parents wouldn't let me get piercings, so I had fake rings that I put, like, all the fuck over myself. I was like, yeah, this is how I'm gonna like make friends with the new. No, it didn't work. By the way, spoiler alert.
And and like in high school, I imagine you're supposed to wear like uniforms in Catholic school.
No, not that one. But they were very strict about stuff. Like girls couldn't wear tank tops, and like I used to get in shit for all my punk and metal shirts because they would have stuff that was deemed not appropriate for school. I remember one day I was wearing a shirt that just had an anti-swastika symbol on it. Like you know, it's just like the crossed out swastika, and the principal told me I couldn't wear that in my high school, and I got into one of many confrontations with him, but I'm just like, the only reason you could possibly be opposed to an anti-swastika is if you are a Nazi. Like,
it's a little
seriously.
Odd. Yeah, it's a little like I'm yeah. Where are you coming? What angle are you trying to come at this from, man?
Yeah.
It doesn't really look good.
Right?
So you moved from Pembroke to where?
And then at that point, I just kind of spent the remainder of my youth hitchhiking around the continent.
You hitchhiked?
Yeah,
this is amazing. I remember when I was, when I moved from Ontario to BC, I drove there with like a U-Haul of a bunch of stuff with like my uncle. And like we picked up a hitchhiker a couple times, the same guy, like along the way. He was going, I think, to Alberta, and so like we were just going basically province to province, seeing this guy randomly and just driving with him for the day. And I just thought it was so cool, but I've never done it, and I've never had any experiences outside of hitchhiking. Any bad stories?
There was like some sketchy occurrences, but nothing like as horrifying as everybody.
What about really good stories?
So many good ones.
Yeah?
So many good ones.
Yeah.
I really wish I had been journaling that entire time, because so much of my life is such a blur. Like, I used to drink a lot and do a lot of drugs, which I don't really anymore, but I also have had like multiple concussions and stuff. So much of my life is just so blurry, and I really wish I had more, because I know there's so many good ones, but there's a lot of like nice old ladies that would pick me up, especially if I was hitchhiking alone. And they're like, you shouldn't do this, it's dangerous. And I'm like, okay, thank you. But then they'd give me a ride, and they would just be so sweet about it. But like just really interesting people, because the kind of people who pick up hitchhikers are good people generally, right? And a lot of them have just interesting stories, and especially when you're on a long drive. If you're on a long drive by yourself, you're grateful for the company, and also I'm a stranger who they're never going to see again. So a lot of people would confide in me and tell me all this like crazy shit about their lives that they probably wouldn't tell most people, because I don't, what do I matter, right? So I got crazy stories from people, just like people telling me about, you know, whatever, like their partner's cheating on them, or just like, or them doing like what, like nefarious things, or just, I don't know, like, or like, but the other thing I did start to find, because I used to think it was easier to hitchhike alone. As a woman, I was more likely to get picked up. Men are less likely to get picked up because people are worried that they're going to be a predator of some kind.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas if it's just me, especially when I was younger, I'm just this cute little teenage girl.
Yeah,
like,
it's
I'm just
more
this
like
poor
you
little,
should be worried about.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody was picking me up like, are you okay?
Yeah.
So then if I was hitchhiking with any of my guy friends, and especially because we were punk, a lot of them looked like, you know, to the average person, maybe intimidating.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, you hide in the bushes. I'm going to stand on the road, put my thumb out, and then when they pull over, you come running out and we'll just jump in the car.
Hey, how you doing?
So I did that for years. And then one time, I was, one of the good ways to get rides when you're hitchhiking is you go find a truck stop. Because truckers often are happy to have the company. They're always making these long drives. And you know, you're going to get a long ride with them. Because also a lot of times, people who pick you up, they're just going to like the next exit or whatever. And every little bit helps. But if you're going across the country and you do it from this exit to that, and then from this exit to that, and from this, and you have to wait in between, it's like, but if someone picks you up and they're like, yeah, I'm driving all the way from Ontario to Alberta, you're just like, fucking A, let's go. So truckers are the best for that. So we were at a truck stop, and I told my sketchy friend, not sketchy, but sketchy looking friend, to go wait over there. And I'm like, I'm going to go talk to the truckers and get us a ride. And then I was talking to this one guy and said, hey, where are you going? Hey, oh, we're going that way too. Do you want to bring us? And he said, I would bring you, but I do not pick up women who are traveling alone because I don't want to get accused of assaulting you. And he's like, I'm not going to assault you, but you could accuse me of it. And so then I said, oh no, I've got a buddy with me. He's a dude. He's like, oh well, in that case, come on in.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
Depends on the person whether.
Right. Yeah.
And then that guy ended up being super crazy. I remember him just telling us all these absolutely nuts stories, and I wish I could remember what they were, but I just remember him having this very storied life. But one of his stories was that one of his friends had been falsely accused, apparently, of sexual assault. And so that's why he was like, if that happened to anybody, it could happen to me, so I don't want to, like, yeah. But I think like one of the craziest times was, I was living in Halliburton for a while, which is like cottage country, but it's like a hippie, like, art community. I lived there for a year and went to the art college there. And my friend Allie had never hitchhiked. And I used to hitchhike from Halliburton back up to Pembroke, or just all over. But I was going back to Pembroke to see a buddy of mine before he moved to BC. I'm like, hey, come with me for the trip. Look, it's going to be a good party. You never hitchhiked. I'm like, we're two young, cute girls. It's a 3-hour drive. We'll get picked up within an hour. We'll be there within 4 hours. It'll be easy peasy. 12 hours later, we're still walking. And we're walking, and we had gotten a few short rides, but now we're in the middle of nowhere. Walking down this country road. It's pitch black, there's no lights, there's nothing. And she was wearing these brand new Docs that she hadn't broken in yet, so her feet are just blistered and bloody. And she just turns to me and goes, "Can I hit you now?" And then we got picked up, and we were starting to really think we're not going to. Like, at this point, it's so late at night, and it's so dark, and we're in the middle of nowhere. And finally, someone stops, and what are the chances he's even going to Pembroke? But he's like, "I'm not going to Pembroke, but I'm going to visit my buddy, and he often goes to Pembroke, so if you want to tag along with me for the ride to his place, maybe he'll take you." And we're like, what other options do we have right now? Let's do it. So we hop in. He's driving us to his buddy's place, and we're, again, in the middle of nowhere. And he's driving down these dirt roads. You know, you get to the ones that don't even have names anymore. The roads are getting bumpier and sketchier, and we're going deeper and deeper into the woods, and we're just looking at each other like, yeah, this is how we die. This guy's for sure taking us to his murder shack. This is it. This is the end. Turns out he had a buddy. We get to his buddy's place. It's off the grid. He's throwing a fucking rave. He's got generators and, like, everyone's fucked up. He's like, no, man, I'm not going to Pembroke, but stay for the party.
Yeah.
So we ended
That's
up staying
awesome.
there for a couple hours, and then finally someone there. We finally made it back to Pembroke. I got to see my friend before he left, but Christ, that was a poor alley. I'm like, oh, it'll be so easy. Sometimes it's not. You never know.
No, that's wild. It's wild. I used to rave back in the day.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I can see that, actually.
It's like drum and bass mostly, and like jungle and stuff like that. But then it's like once I stopped doing the drugs, I was like, I don't know if this scene's for me, guys. Like, I don't.
Yeah, you kind of need drugs.
What's the percentage of ravers you think that are like sober? Really, realistically,
It's very rare.
very low.
I knew
right?
a couple,
and it's just, and it's like, it's almost like I don't even want to be there because I feel like it's too tempting, you know, like
Right.
it's easy.
I can see that,
when
yeah.
you like
Well,
are
also,
quitting and you cut off the people that you know that sell the drugs and that are doing the drugs. You don't hang around them anymore, and it's like, you know, it's a little easier. But when you're just there, and a lot of times people be like, "Hey, man," you know, and just like put out something, and you're just like, you know.
I also feel like
How do you?
I cannot tolerate rave music unless I'm on drugs.
Yeah, that's what like a Henry Rollins thing, right? He's like,
yeah?
I don't know what came first, the shitty drugs or the shitty music.
But they have to go together,
yeah. They definitely go together.
Yeah. Because I was never a raver per se, but I grew up in a small town, and there was only so many people who were even remotely alternative. So I was into punk. I got into metal a little bit later in my teens, but in my early teens, like, I was really into punk. And there was like a handful of punks in my town, but that was it, you know? And then there was like a handful of metalheads, so we hung out with them, and we hung out with the skateboarders, we hung out with the hippies, and we hung out with just basically anyone who wasn't like a normie bro, hockey bro, popular kid. Like, as long as you were even kind of different, you were in our little crew of weirdos. Yeah. So then as a result, of course, there was the raver kids, and so I wound up going to some raves with them just because, again, you know, what else are you doing? But, I never really, I never really got into it. I always really despised most of the music. I would say, like, sorry.
No, go.
I'd say, like, out of all the different genres of, and I used to just refer to it all as techno, which just to piss off my friends who are into it, because I understand.
Electronica.
Yeah, I understand techno is a genre of electronica, but I just like to be a dick. I'm like, you and your fucking techno.
It's most generic shit. No, you just got it. I get it.
But I think out of all the different varieties of techno, the ones you listed were the ones I could tolerate the most. Like, I never loved jungle and drum and bass, but if I was gonna be forced to listen to rave music, I would rather that than like happy hardcore, for example. That was a huge one for a bit. My God, that was awful.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I went to. And, like, I sold drugs for a bit. So it's, like, a lot of it was just going there and, like, you know. So I went to different parties to kind of just, you know, push stuff. But, like, there were, like, the nicest kids were at those parties. Like,
That's
they were
true.
just, like, I would go in with, like, I would leave with just, like, you know, half, like, my arm full of just bracelets. Jack people coming up and being like, I like your hair. And just, like, fucking, you know, and, like.
That was the nice thing about that scene that I will say for sure, is that everybody is so welcoming, and I really appreciated the fact that it was, like, really encouraged to just be yourself and be different. It wasn't like you had to have a certain look.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, as much as I love punk and metal, there's a lot of gatekeepers in those scenes where if you show up at a show not looking like the other punks, like, people are going to be like, you know what I mean? And not everyone. And lots of punks are lovely, and, like, lots of metalheads are lovely, but you know what I mean? There's just always, there is, like, more of an element of feeling like you have to have a certain look to fit in. Whereas with raves, it was just, like, do whatever, be whoever, welcome, like,
I get that.
You know? I respected that about it. I think MDMA does that too. It makes you love anything. And back in our day, it was called ecstasy. And
right.
And it had the little. They all had little pictures on them. You got like the Batman ones or the
the Mitsubishis or the Dolphins or whatever the fuck. Yeah. But the thing that I like really, if I could say, like, I would never put like any kind of rave music in, you know, like we're gonna do. Like movie genres. If we were doing like music genres like this, it wouldn't even be in like my top 20.
Right.
But I did appreciate that. It's like I'm very like I listen to most things other than like pop, just because I feel like, you know, what pop is designed for. It's just like it's just, you know,
I feel that. I think
cookie cutter music.
I think there is some good pop music. Because pop is
such
a broad genre, right?
Yeah,
and especially like 80s pop. I love a lot of 80s pop. But you're right. Especially, like, I'm kind of glad in some ways that the days of top 40 radio seem to kind of have come to an end, because we're at this age where music, it's so accessible for people to make music and to find music, and, you know, with like...
And just make their own lists. And
so it's like, because back in the day it was like, whatever songs were in the top 40, you heard those same fucking songs. The Much Countdown.
I only want to hear number 7.
Yeah.
You're like, you know,
Yeah.
Totally.
And so now at least, like, popular music has become a bit broader. That said, there's also a lot more garbage music now than there ever was, because there's just more music in general now. But pop music, for sure, it's very contrived. And I remember there being that one era where almost all of the famous, like, top 40 artists, all the songs were written by, like, the same guy. I forget his name, but he wrote for, like, all the different, like, all of the pop, like, he wrote for, like, Britney Spears, he wrote for, like, the Backstreet Boys, he wrote for, like, whoever, like, every one of those, like, big band. It was, like, all just one, it was all, like, one guy. And it was all just formulaic. It was all just him, like, he knows scientifically, like, what's going to trigger the human brain in such a way that it becomes catchy and it gets stuck in your head, you know what I mean? And it's not, like, at that point, it's not art. It's not expressing anything that's genuine. How I feel. Yeah.
And when you're making it just because you know it'll sell, like, it's
Agreed.
It's not, I mean, it can only really come from, you know, one place or the other, you know. I mean, you could you know, want money and things like that, but you always got to approach it from
it's got to be a true expression,
you know?
of like who you actually are.
The funny thing about jungle is you listen to a lot of this stuff, and when in jungle you have a lot of these, like, the emceeing style for jungle is like this, like, Jamaican patois rapping kind of thing.
Okay.
And no matter who it is, whether they're like white,
Asian, and I do think that that's problematic.
They all try to sound like they're Jamaican and like MC in that way, and
that's
it's something
really
that I
cool.
don't
if you're white,
like.
You should not.
It's not even that
using patois.
Like, you can be a white person that is
you
like,
can be a white person
that's
who raps,
that's your
rap
native language, or, you know, that's what you were.
But it's fine to be a white person who raps, but rap your own way.
But then you
don't
see them at shows and they're like,
you're part of
hey,
the culture,
man, and it's like, why are you, if that's not what you sound like. You know, it's not, and this isn't the case, like, you could also say, like, you know, Cypress Hill, Be Real. The whiter of the two. The lighter, I guess. Like, his voice, that he is really, like, nasally when he raps, and, like, he's changing it because he wants to have a unique sound, but I don't think he's trying to sound
he's
like...
He's not trying to appropriate
something.
It's
culture. Not like trying to sound like
anything
else, or he's not doing... It's almost like an impersonation.
Well, my singing voice doesn't sound like I'm talking. Yeah, of course you're going to have a different voice. But again, it's just like, don't try to fucking sound Jamaican if you're not Jamaican. Like, I just think it's that simple, really, to me.
I always thought it was weird, like, in the 90s, for the longest time, I didn't know that the Spice Girls were British.
Oh, really?
For real. Yeah, for real. And then I just saw, like, probably, like, you know, after their first album, at some point, I saw an interview and I was like, holy shit.
I feel like I had that moment too where I remember noticing that about like lots of British artists don't sound British when they're singing. Or they do, but just in like moments. Like once you know they're British, you can hear moments where you're like, oh, that sounded British.
Yeah.
But like overall, the accent is kind of
now that I know,
the...
I feel, yeah, exactly. I feel like exactly what you just said. And I always think it's interesting that like actors, like some actors will be Australian or like, you know, British or whatever the case is, you know? And like they tend to do the American, North American, whatever accent a lot better than we do other accents. Have you ever noticed that? Like, there's a lot of actors where it's the same thing where I'm like, I didn't know Christian Bale was Australian.
Yeah.
This is fucking Batman. Like, I would have no clue unless I... Oh,
that's a really good point.
It's insane. But you never think that about American actors.
I think maybe because American culture is so pervasive that everybody, no matter where you are in the world, was raised on American media. So they're more used to hearing the American accent all the time. So, like, for me, I'm the kind of person who I can't do impersonations easily off the cuff, and I can't throw on an accent off the cuff. But if I've been listening to an accent for like a lot, like I watch a lot of British television, and sometimes if I've been watching like a lot of British television, I'll start speaking with a British accent by mistake. It'll just come out because it'll just be, and then if I want to amp it up and throw it on, then I can really do it because I've been immersed in it for a bit. You know what I mean? And I think all actors do that, right? If you're like planning for a role, you immerse yourself in the thing that you're trying to. It could, you know, portray. But I think with the reason why the American accent's easier is because everyone's heard it for their entire lives and they hear it all the time because they're always watching American shows, watching American movies, listening to American music, whereas we consume less of other people's cultures, so it's like not as ingrained in our brains.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I never thought about it before, but that's my theory that I have that I just came up with. Yeah. Yeah.
I can appreciate that. I'd like to get in some acting. I'm supposed to be doing some web series at some point this year.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be a gay porn director.
Nice.
Now,
that'll be fun.
The fun thing is, like, my buddy sent this to me, and he's already, like, the ball's rolling on the show. I'm just really waiting for, like, my time to do it. It's not, like, a huge role.
Okay.
But, he sent that, and his punctuation's not the best. So I'm unsure if I'm just a director of gay porn, or if I myself am gay, and I'm, you know.
You might want clarification on that.
You know what? I feel like I'm gonna wait it out. Like, he's gonna send me, like, he said he was gonna send me, like, my lines or script or whatever it is, you know? And so, I mean, if it doesn't say it there, like, I don't know. I feel like I might just go in and, you know, wing it. And I think it'd be funnier that way, you know? I think it might be...
Is it supposed to be a comedic...
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. And I think also, like, if you're gay, you would be the same person either way. Like, you know what I mean? Some gay people are flamboyant, but some gay people, you would never know they're gay.
Yeah.
And I think if you're not gay and you're playing a gay person, throwing on the flamboyant thing is almost, like... dodgy.
Yeah.
So maybe just play the same character either way, like whether you're gay or not, because, you know, you could just say I was being gay. What would be like a good, like, a way that I could do it? Like, would I add something to maybe like my outfit, or wear like maybe like a bright neon, a fanny pack? Like, what could I do that would be wouldn't offend? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I would just say make sure that you like. And I mean, you typically are. I was going to say, just make sure you are well-dressed. Just make sure your outfit actually is coordinated and you just don't look like a slob. Like, I think gay people just like... And again, not all... It's, you know, every person is different. But I think in general, gay guys have, like, better taste than straight guys. Like, they just have, like, clothes that fit well and, like, look nice. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be, like, flamboyant, but even, like, just, like, make sure that it's, like, that it fits well and looks nice and is well-coordinated. But, I mean, I also think if you're gay... then do something gay. Make out with a guy or whatever. And if you're not, like, if you're not actively doing anything gay, then why does it even have to be mentioned whether or not you're gay?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm like 80% leaning towards I'm directing gay porn. That's what I think it is. Okay. So, and maybe I should ask for some clarification if I, you know, because I don't want to come at it and be all tacky, and especially not being gay myself.
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean?
You don't want to be like derogatory.
That's why I'm
about it,
asking.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to know. Have you ever done any acting?
Like a little bit on and off over the years. Not a ton and nothing serious, but I'd really like to get into it more. Especially now that I'm in Toronto. Because living in St. Catharines, there's not a ton of acting opportunities.
St. Catharines, that's where you came from.
So that's where I was just living, yeah.
So why'd you come to Toronto? Was it for comedy?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, it was long overdue, to be honest. Because I've been doing stand-up for 7 years. And in St. Catharines, it's cool because it is in a spot where you can easily travel to a lot of other cities. And so I did, like, at least 3 nights a week, I was traveling to Hamilton, London, Burlington, Brantford, we're all over. And then, you know, that became more difficult when I lost my license and didn't drive. And then every week I would not only have to ask for spots for me, but then I'd also have to ask for spots for a driver. And then I would have to message every comedian I know who drives and go, hey, do you want to do this show, and then line up all these rides. So it was like half my life was spent just like planning gigs and rides and wrangling other people into gigs with me and da-da-da-da. So I'm like, if I move to Toronto, I just won't have to do that. I can just, and I got a place where I can walk to Comedy Bar, I can walk to Nothing Fancy, I can walk to Parkdale, and I can walk to Hyde Park. So it's so much better. I should have done it a long time ago. I really should have. But
Toronto's like the place to be. I mean...
Yeah.
I mean, in Canada, I would say it's Toronto and Montreal. I think in a distant
comedy,
third,
I would
maybe
say,
Vancouver.
No, for comedy, I'd say Toronto, Vancouver are the 2 biggest right now.
Really? Eh?
Yeah. Montreal has Just for Laughs and all that.
Yeah.
But when Just for Laughs isn't happening,
No.
the comedy community is actually quite small there. Like it's a good community. There's some good comics there, and there's some really nice people there. But there's not like a ton of mics to hit. There's really not many actually. So if you're like really trying to take it serious and want to get into the grind, like. Toronto's the place to be. Vancouver's, the scene there seems like it's getting bigger right now, but it's still not as big as Toronto. It's still not as easy to just like get up every night of the week kind of thing.
Yeah, it kind of sucks living in Mississauga.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if we talked about it on here or when you just got here about getting a vehicle or whatever.
Yeah,
like that's definitely high priority. But I also think that I might be moving closer to Toronto.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like the point of living in Mississauga instead of Toronto is to save money, right? Or to spend less on rent. But then if you're spending less on rent, you theoretically have enough for a vehicle so that you can get into Toronto.
Yeah.
That's how it should work, or no?
Yeah. Yeah, I spend a lot of money on Ubers.
Yeah. Well, see? I mean, that could just be a car.
Yeah, I know.
Especially since you don't even drink. Like, that'd be my main concern is, like, if I was commuting to and from Mississauga for gigs, I'd have a few drinks at the gig, and then it's like, well, I guess I'm leaving my car in Toronto. I don't, like, yeah. Yeah, you don't even drink.
It'll happen.
Just get a car,
Something.
man.
I'm either getting a car by the end of the year, or I'm moving to Toronto by the end of the year. That's what it seems like.
Good plan. Yeah.
I was born in Toronto. You know, I lived in Toronto for a long time.
Oh, okay.
It's not like I don't like Mississauga. It just seems logical
way.
doing comedy and stuff like that, and yeah, it's out of the way.
Yeah. You do have a really nice place here, so I could see why you wouldn't want to leave it. And I think that's even what was keeping me in St. Catharines. Well, there was like a bunch of things, but I moved there for school, dropped out, but by the time I dropped out, I was already in a band, so I stayed there for my band, and then by the time that band broke up, I already had a whole community there of like, you know, just a bunch of friends and a bunch of activists and a bunch of musicians that I was like involved with, and actually by the time that band broke up, I was already running my first house venue. So for the last 10 years, I've been running house venues where bands play in my basement once a month. And that house was like, we honestly had like half an acre of property. I had a garden that was bigger than most people's entire property. And we had like bonfires that were taller than this house. And it was a huge space. That house, like we were renting, but I was expecting to be there for a long time. So I actually finished and soundproofed the basement on my own dime, thinking like, oh, we'll be here for years. And then we got kicked out like 2 years later. So, but then I moved and started another house venue and just kept that going. And so I did that for 10 years. Once a month, I'd have touring bands come through, play my basement. And then the second house, we made an art gallery upstairs. So there was one whole room that every month we would feature a different artist. And then So then at the show, prior to the bands, we'd have like the art opening. We'd always do a little potluck. It was just, it was this really great community that I built. And I was paying $1,000 a month for the entire house. Well, not me, it was shared.
Yeah.
So I was paying like, and at first we had 3 roommates. Eventually we decided, me and the one guy got along really well, and we cycled through a few shitty third roommates, and then we're like, we're just going to keep the house to ourselves. So it was just the 2 of us in a massive 3-bedroom, 3-floor, huge like house with a yard, and for $1,000 a month.
Ridiculous.
Like now I'm paying more than that for a tiny apartment above a Domino's. Like it's so that was part of what kept me from moving to Toronto. Is I
Do you eat a lot of Domino's living above? Oh my god.
I have not.
I imagine I'd eat too much.
I haven't eaten pizza in I think about 2 years.
Alright, so
yeah.
So what's okay, you know what? Let's talk about it. Let's bust out the snacks. And let's get right into it. He mentioned
he had snacks, and I told him that I probably can't eat any of them.
I'm so disappointed. All right. So, if you want to know, because they're all from Japan, I think everything is like listed here.
I think I'm gonna say there's probably sugar in everything,
what can't you eat?
The list of things I can eat is legitimately shorter than the things I can't eat. But a big one that I can't eat is sugar.
Like,
and these are probably all.
Well, there's a lot. Maybe. They do a lot of... The Japanese like their corn.
And so to explain to the audience, I have an autoimmune disease, which I contracted from my wonderful dream house that I was paying so cheap rent for. Surprise, was filled with black mold. I mean, everything comes with its...
God, that's
you know, like that was too good to be true. If it was like actually a good house, it would be... So, yeah, I got really sick, like really, really sick from that. And it was like, and I lived there for 6 years. So I was breathing black mold every day for 6 years, and ended up like, what is this? Oh, I can eat rice crackers.
I'm not trying
probably.
to interrupt.
I do eat rice.
Check it out.
But what ended up, so the ingredients are in there, right? Because this is Japanese.
So the black mold.
So if you breathe black mold every day for 6 years, guys, it's bad news. Don't do it. Okay. Common allergens. Oh wait. Oh, so these are all the ingredients, or these are just
these are like the things. Like if it says not suitable for vegetarian, are you vegetarian?
So I used to be. I was vegan. I didn't eat any meat for 23 years, and I recently started eating meat again because I had to stop eating legumes, which includes peanuts, and there's peanuts in this.
Oh my god! Why?
So because I got so sick, I had to go on this crazy diet, blah, blah, blah. That's the long and short of it. And I'm undergoing all kinds of
serious
treatments. So that's beans, peas, brutal. So I couldn't do tofu anymore. I couldn't do like any sort of, so that's why I had to, those are legumes, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so that's why I had to start eating meat again, but I only eat fish and seafood and bugs, because I decided that if you're going to eat meat, those are the most ethical forms of meat to eat. So I primarily, for my protein, eat crickets and mealworms, which actually are more environmentally sustainable than plant protein even. So that's pretty cool. And like the way that they're farmed, it's like they don't even know, right, that they're being farmed. It's not like the same as like cows in factory farms that are being tortured. It's like the crickets are just, they're still living out a good life for all they know. Like, you know what I mean?
I've had both.
Right?
They don't stick out in my mind as super gross. I think it's just the idea of it that people are uncommon with, you know. Totally. So it's like,
and I felt that way about it. Like I decided in my head that logically this is ethical, but internally I was still like, but ew. And I for sure had to combat that and get past it and just go, okay, well, and then you get used to it.
So do you buy like the bag of the dried?
So I get it powdered.
Okay.
And I get it from a Canadian company called Landish, and they're very like ethically conscious and sustainable, and I like that it's Canadian too, because you're not like, you know, flying them overseas and wasting petroleum and stuff. But so I get it mostly in the powdered form. Like I've had the other, like I've had just like dried crickets, which kind of have a similar, I mean, it's all about just the seasoning, really. But I was going to say they kind of reminded me of kale chips, you know, in like the texture and a similar seasoning, I guess. But, anyway, so that's what I do now. It's just,
Okay,
it's a lot.
So these are the only things I think, this one's already out, right?
Yep.
So let's look for this. Yeah, this is
I
one
feel
of them.
bad. Like, I don't want to...
No, it's okay. Suitable for vegetarians, wheat.
Okay, well, I'm not supposed to do gluten, but I am also drinking a beer right now. That's all the reason I shouldn't do more.
Wheat is gluten? Is that what we're talking?
It is, yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm really not like... I'm not bothered that I can't eat this. I feel like you are. I want to eat it to make you happy.
I don't care. I don't want to pressure you. I don't want you to
like,
be later tonight, like, on your toilet. Like, I fucking hate Paul. Like, what? He peer pressured. Paul, I don't appreciate your... You know, I just don't want to be that guy. So if you don't want to eat them, there's no pressure. We could just fucking throw the shit back down there. If you want to
eat them in front of me, I'm not going to be like, I don't mind. I ate some protein bars in the car on the way here. I'm used to being like, because I was vegan for so long, I was already kind of used to being like, oh, please don't bother for me. You know what I mean? Like, you go places and people are like, oh no, we have to have vegan options. I'm like, please don't worry about it, you know? And now that I have this even weirder diet, I'm like, I'm already used to not being able to eat other people's food, and I don't like to be a bother. Like,
honestly,
I don't want you to
this
feel
is like
bad
the only thing that seems like you could eat it.
Let's see the ingredients on this one.
So, I don't know. It's your call.
Okay.
Where the fuck is it? Alright, right there. I don't know. It just says wheat. That's it.
Right. Well...
I imagine there's no sugar in this, but...
It's just pure wheat? That's the only ingredient? That doesn't sound
No, there's no
believable.
way. This is just like the allergens and stuff, like the things that people could possibly... But they make note of it being vegetarian or not, so I don't know.
I think I'm going to pass, and I'm sorry.
Let's pass.
I'm sorry to disappoint you. You please eat some. Please eat. Please eat. I am sorry to be...
I will eat
no
one
fun.
then. Fine.
Well, and so the way it works is basically all of these different... allergens, they're all inflammatory, and my body's already very inflamed all the time, so then when I eat any of these things, it just increases the inflammation. So I can get away with a little tiny bit of cheating here and there. Like, I can drink this beer and it probably won't destroy me, but if I have like several beers or several things in a day, or if I eat wheat and then also, you know, like more than one thing in a span of a few days, then it actually makes me super sick to the point that I can't get out of bed for days. That gets like that intense. So that's why I'm just like, I'd rather play it on the safe side and still be able to function. I'm not judging you.
Cheesy rings?
You're not on a crazy diet, so why would I judge you? You can eat whatever you want. They are fun. It's fun that you have Japanese snacks. I like that.
I was a vegetarian for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was really close to being vegan. Like, the only thing I ate that was like from animals was cheese.
Okay.
Just because I couldn't find any good fake cheese. Like, I was
hard
like
to
really...
find. I've searched
there's
low
a
and
lot
high.
of good
and there's more and more coming out. So, and I always hated vegan cheese in the early days. Like, Daya is absolutely disgusting. I cannot eat it. Like, it's so gross. But there's more and more companies coming out every day, and I find that the smaller the company is, the better the fake cheese is. So there's one from, I want to say... There's two kind of near here. One's out of Waterloo and one's out of Grimsby. And one's called Nuts for Cheese and the other one's called...
These are delicious. Sorry to interrupt. Oh, dang.
Okay, but I'm going to plug vegan cheese while you're plugging nuts. No, Nuts for Cheese I highly recommend, and I wish I could remember the other one. But look for them both. Look for a Kitchener-based or Kitchener-Waterloo-based one and then a Grimsby-based one. But so it's made out of nuts. And so Daya is made out of just like fucking, I don't even know, like just I think vegetable oil and some other weird, it's just like, it doesn't taste like real food. But when you can like ferment nuts in a way that's similar to how like you would ferment cheese, and it actually creates like a very, so the Nuts for Cheese, yeah, none of those ones are really melty, but you can. I've also gotten melty, I got really good melty vegan cheese 2 years ago for my birthday. I ordered it. It was a targeted Instagram ad, but it was also a local-ish place that was their whole thing. They're like, cheese curds, they melt in poutine, and I'm like, oh my god, buddy! Like I ordered a huge box of them, and I just ate fucking poutine for like weeks. I was so happy, and they were like, as far as I remember, at that point in time, I hadn't eaten real cheese in a long time, but from what I could remember, I would say they were as good as regular cheese curds. Fake cheese is coming a long way, is all I'm saying. You just gotta...
It's been a while.
You gotta, seek it out. But I agree with you.
There's been a lot of improvements, but I feel like a lot of this Beyond stuff too. It's like I don't like the. A lot of the stuff I ate back in the day, I felt like it was more expensive, but like it wasn't. Like these Beyond things. Don't get me wrong. Like I have them once in a while,
right.
but like with everything that goes into them, like they can be better than just like a veggie patty or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
you know?
I've still never tried one. Because even when I was still not eating meat, I was like, still not really.
It's just really processed food.
Yeah, I never
know?
really ate processed food. I think that's my problem with like those cheeses, like Daiya and stuff, is it just tastes like fake processed food, and I just like real food. So yeah, I never had a Beyond Burger. I've never eaten fast food. Like even just
you cook
just
a lot?
never. Like yes and no. I'm not. It's not even that I'm not a good cook. I always say I'm not a good cook, and then my friends who have had my cooking are like, "No, you are. You're amazing." But it's more like, but those people who are saying that have never cooked in their life, and they live off fast food.
Okay,
So all you have to do is like not much to impress them. But I think it's just that everything takes me so long. Like with my mental health issues, like I have like issues with time. Like everything takes me longer than it takes everyone else. So if I look at a recipe and it says half an hour, I'm like, okay, so 2-3 hours, like. You know, like, I don't have that kind of time on a regular basis. So I've learned, like, a lot of very, very simple meals that I just make the same thing over and over. Like, I eat, like, a fuck ton of salads because you don't have to cook them. You just assemble them. And then now that I'm eating fish, like, I'll just make, like, a fish protein and put that on top of a giant bowl of greens. And I'm like, there's a whole meal. Good to go. You know what I mean? Or I'll just make, like, rice. Or just, you know what I mean? Like, simple shit. I go all out once in a while. And for the potlucks at the house shows, I used to go all out. And my favorite thing was I made this bomb vegan shepherd's pie. And so many meat eaters, and the kind of meat eaters who like are like, vegan food's gross, and you know, would eat it not knowing. And they'd tell me this is the best shepherd's pie they've ever had. And I'm like, haha, joke's on you, it's vegan. That was my like.
Yeah. But
now I can't even make that shepherd's pie because every single ingredient in it is stuff I can't eat. Oh yeah, because I also can't have nightshades now.
You can't make the same shepherd's pie.
So, because the base of it had soy, which I can't eat, and then the potatoes I can't eat because I can't eat nightshades now. I could, I guess, have the vegetables that were in it. So, no base, no top, just vegetables. Oh yeah, I'm doing that. It's called salad. Yeah.
That's a bummer. Shepherd's pie is like one of my favorite things, man.
The key,
I make a mean shepherd's pie.
The key to like a really good shepherd's pie, vegan or not, is the gravy, right? And a good mushroom gravy. Oh my god, that makes anything good. But oh yeah. Oh, now I'm dreaming about it. It was so good.
Damn. I don't like to brag, but I don't have any allergies. It's gotta be rough when you hear that shit, right? Like
yeah. I'm hoping to get to that point.
Yeah.
The thing with autoimmune diseases and like chronic illnesses is like a lot of people who get these types of illnesses don't go on the crazy diet, but then they're just sick all the time. And a lot of people don't ever beat these illnesses, they just have it for life. But if you go on the crazy diet and you do all the treatments and you take all the supplements and you do all the things, which I am doing, it is possible to beat. It's just hard. It just takes time. But ideally, like within a couple of years, I'll be past this, and then I can eat whatever I want again. That'll be good.
So, like, you said that it started from the black mold. And it's just, is it something that, like, with time could go away without, you know, when you're not around it now?
And it depends how bad it is. So if you only been exposed to black mold for a short period of time, and then you just get out, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I was around it a little bit, and like I told my landlord, and then he came and he cut a big chunk of the drywall out, and he just like
that's a good landlord.
And he just left it. This was in my bedroom.
Okay, so
he
not
just
good.
left it. So like I'm like, and it was right where my fucking like it was in a bad spot. It was like behind my bed, so I had to do this thing with like what is that, like a tapestry, is that what it's called? Like some sort of like thing that I hung to kind of block that there was no wall.
And I actually retract everything what I just said. I'm like, I said that's a good landlord. There is no such thing.
It's nice that he took it out.
There's no such thing as a good landlord, period. Just like there's no such thing as a good cop, because even the good ones are perpetuating this system where they're, you know, everyone who has to rent is, it's rent is theft. Rent is oppression. It's bullshit.
I don't want to be this guy, but I gotta do this. Look. I am notoriously fuck the police guy. I'm not gonna lie. Right? And I'm like, if you're not if you're a cop and you see bad things happening and you don't say anything, you're just as bad as the shitty cops. I believe that fully.
And even if you don't see bad things happen, even if you don't, which is highly unlikely, you're still complicit in a system that is based on oppression, that is literally born out of slavery. Like, it's not, and still is. Like, it still basically is.
Or we're talking about, like, the like, jails?
Well, yeah, first of all, like, the prison system, and this includes Canada, is disproportionately comprised of Black and Indigenous people. Like, much disproportionate. Like, something like, I forget the exact statistic, but it's something to this effect where the Indigenous population of Canada, total, is less than, like, 3%, but the Indigenous population in prison is, like 30 or 40, or, like, it's a fucking just much higher number, because cops just disproportionately arrest Black and Indigenous people, and it's just, I mean, there's so many problems. And really, like, I mean, I could, okay, do you have a whole nother 3-hour podcast where I can just rant about cops? Because I could.
No, and to be honest, like, most of the things you're saying, like, and you could, you know, keep saying for 3 hours, I would agree with. Yeah. The only thing I want to say is, like, I don't think every single cop is bad. I think 99.999%
but even
of them
that
are.
1% is bad, and they just don't know it. That they're still bad.
I don't know. I think okay, so
are all Nazis bad?
Okay, hold on.
I think there were Nazis who thought they were good people.
Okay, but if you want to say, like, okay, so politicians lie, yeah? Mm-hmm. Like, the Nazis got their power lying through the people. So there's probably some supporters that were ignorant to what the Nazis were really going to do.
Yeah.
Right? So but no way am I look, I'm just the guy who's always trying to see the other side of the fence, right? But what you're agreeing
with me on here is that even the Nazis who thought they were good people were still doing something terrible. And that applies to the cops who think that they're good people.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, there's no such thing as a good Nazi. There's no such thing as a good cop. There's the odd person who's delusional who thinks they're good, but it doesn't make them good.
See, fuck, man. It's so hot. Okay, let me explain where I'm coming from, okay? And I fully agree with the Nazi thing. I'm still not on board with, like, yes, the people who voted the Nazis in, regardless of whether they knew it or not, still were the cause. Right, I totally agree with that. Mm-hmm. My foster dad, he's a Jamaican man, moved to Canada when he was younger, and he, like, trained to become, like, an RCMP officer. He lived in Winnipeg.
Okay.
He went to school for, like, you know, however long, like, more long than most people, like, longer than most people go to school, you know, and he actually got in, and he was, caught for less than a year. Mm-hmm. And the reason he left is because, like his words, like, he wanted to become a police officer to help people. Mm-hmm. And that he left because he wasn't doing the amount of good that he, set out to do. And so he became a foster parent.
And I think that this further proves my point, because he was delusional for that year because he thought cops were good. Then he found out they're not, and then he stopped being a cop. So good on him for realizing that cops aren't good. But that's the thing. They're not.
Okay, so this is a good conversation. I'm enjoying where this conversation's going. Okay, so do you not think... Okay, do you not think there's some people that have your approach is take the system down with force, and you don't think there's a wave of people that have the mindset of take the system down from within? Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like, are we going to get rid of the cops? Yeah. I'm not saying we can.
It's basically been shown time and time again all throughout history that never works. There's been a lot of people who thought they could take down the system from within, and they were never successful.
Or killed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Man, trust me, fuck the police. It's not something new.
Good.
This isn't something new. I'm just trying to paint. And then, one other time, these are my two instances. Okay, so my foster dad also, like, just would tell me that, like, oh, there's people in Winnipeg that are, that, like, there are some decent cops. This is all I'm saying. I don't know these cops. I don't know their history. I'm just saying, like, my foster dad is like one of the greatest people I've ever known.
And again, it's like, okay, so they're decent for cops. You know, they're not as bad as other cops.
Well, they're trying to do the right thing.
But it's like they're still, again, complicit in this whole system.
You know?
They're still perpetuating the existence of this system that...
I hear what you're saying. I just think they're, like, there's going to be people that try to take... whatever, like it's
but like okay, so if your argument were true, and if there had been good cops since the dawn of time, why is the system getting worse instead of better? Like where are all these good cops, and what good are they doing from the inside? If the fucking population in prison of like natives and black people is still so much higher than white people, and and the numbers are going up. Like where are these good cops and what are they doing?
I don't know if it's going up. I don't know the numbers, to be honest. So like
it statistically has over the past like I don't know exact, like I want to say like 20 years, or the last statistics I read are yes, it is going up. It's not getting better. So
well, okay, so let's break it down even further. Like, what makes a good person? Is someone who does some stupid shit? Fuck. See, this is a horrible conversation, and I don't even want to look at Bonez right now because, like, I fucking don't like the police. I just think this is a good conversation for the pod.
Okay.
And I'm trying to come at it from
that question is once again another 3-hour-long podcast because that's a philosophical debate, right?
Yeah.
And I've taken a lot of political philosophy in university, so buddy, I'm ready to go. But like, that's not an easily answerable question, because obviously there's been a lot of philosophical debates around it. But I would say at the end of the day, a good person is someone who does no harm to others, and the entire police system is perpetuating harm as a system. So even if you're within it and you think you're not causing harm, you are.
Yeah, but every system, that's like saying every system has, every group, any way you want to categorize people, however you do it, every single group that you've categorized, however, okay, there's going to be shitty people in every single one of those groups.
So, like, that is
So it doesn't
true.
mean all those groups are shit because there's shitty people in the
But is
groups.
the group actively oppressing another group of people? Is the group as an entity, is the purpose of its existence to actively oppress another group of people? Because if that's the case, then yes, everyone in that group is bad. If that's not the case, if you've got an activist group and they're fighting for freedom and one guy's a dickhead, well then yeah, the group is still good, okay?
I think, okay, I don't know if I fully agree with that. Like, I definitely, okay, so let's talk about Ottawa.
Oh my
okay?
God. Okay.
I saw for sure that there were groups at this trucker thing, this little, what were they called? The convoy.
The freedom rally or whatever, yeah.
Okay. Lots of shit people there.
Definitely putting freedom in quotation
Lots
marks.
of good people there. Lots of shit people there. I can't say whether it was 50-50, it would just be a guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
But there were clearly good people there and bad people there. What is your... Okay. Well, what I perceived as good people and bad people.
Right.
What is your take on that? Yeah, what is your take on that?
So the rally was something that was something I struggled with because I grew up in a hick town. So a lot of my friends are, I don't know, they're not even friends, but people I knew from back then who I'm not even necessarily friends with, but I still have on social media and stuff, and they're like not maybe as educated or as woke as a lot of the people I generally hang out with now. So I definitely saw people like that were in support of the rally, and I was like, okay, I know deep down you're a good person, you don't understand what you're supporting. So I was trying to talk to all these people. I was messaging them and private messaging them because, you know, as we know, like, public conversations on Facebook tend to develop pretty quickly. But just approaching them respectfully and saying, like, hey, do you understand, like, all these aspects of the rally that you might not have considered? Like, first of all, the fact that it was literally organized by a racist organization from the get-go. For one, there's so many points I could make about that rally, but I think that that's probably the most important point to make.
Okay, so.
But okay, so
okay,
so then what I was gonna say, I mean, again, this is such a huge thing to unpack because there's so many different avenues I could go down to talk about this. But I think, for me, the racism was the most important thing, and I think a point that I made to a lot of my friends who did end up coming around and who did end up removing themselves from the situation was like people saying, oh yeah, well sure, there was Nazi flags, there was Proud Boys flags, there was like at least 4 or 5 different kinds of like white nationalist flags being flown at this rally, and people saying, well, those aren't my flags, I'm not waving those people are. Listen, if you're in a group and you're actively organizing something and there are Nazis in your midst, if you do not kick those Nazis out of your group, then yeah, you're a bad person, because you're allowing them to raise up that fucking very, like, horribly destructive voice and that mindset, and you're giving it a platform. If you are part of that group and you're not removing them, any of the activist movements that I've been part of, and I have fought for tons of freedoms, if there was a Nazi in our midst, you better believe that he'd be fucking out of there pretty quickly, okay? So if there's a Nazi in your midst and you're not kicking him out, then yeah, you're part of his group, whether you like it or not. And that goes back to everything I've been saying so far about, like, literally, if that's who you're associating with, you are part of the problem.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think that everyone there was associating with them. I think people that...
But again, you are. Because you're part of the same group.
But it's like trying to explain to someone...
was organized by a racist.
It's like you trying to explain to your high school person why that, you know, anti-Nazi thing, it's like, he probably just saw the symbol and was like, no, we're not having that. And you're like... No, like,
it was more that he didn't want. I think it was that he didn't want discussion. Like, he didn't want
well, he could have been a dickhead too. I don't know him. I'm not saying he wasn't a dickhead. Yeah. I'm just, you know,
also all principals are bastards too. Trying to no, but like the positive thing was that most of the people I knew that had initially been involved with the rally did end up deciding, like, this is not something we want to be part of, and they're like, I'm still against masks and vaccines, which I also do have a problem with, because I'm well, maybe it's not obvious, but I'm an intelligent person, so I'm pro-mask and vaccine. But they were like, I'm still against masks and vaccines, however, I am not okay with being associated with racists, and they did decide to remove themselves from that movement, and I really respect that, and I'm really, like, glad that we were able to have these conversations, because I think I helped them to realize that, and I think that's... Yeah, it's like, you're right, not everyone's, like, thinking about what they're doing, but also also they should be.
See, this is
and
the
again,
thing.
that's what
it's
makes
like,
a good person.
Because their mindset is thinking different. Like, I'm sure a lot of people didn't know that, you know, it was put together by racists. Didn't know any of the stuff that you're saying right now. I just knew
because, again,
that the government was doing shitty stuff. And
again, as an activist who has stood up for all kinds of causes, and I've orchestrated rallies, and I've participated in rallies, and I've orchestrated sit-ins. I've done all kinds of shit. As someone who has been involved in this type of political activism for most of my life, if I'm going to a demonstration, the first thing I'm doing is checking to see who the fuck is organizing it. Because again, think about what you're doing. And
it doesn't mean the cause. It doesn't mean the cause is any less worth fighting for.
Okay, but also their whole cause was bullshit. So there's also that. And claiming that, like, this is infringing on your fucking freedom. That's like the height of privilege. If someone asking you to wear a piece of cloth over your face is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, maybe go help someone who's actually been through actual struggle.
Vaccine mandates. That's what I thought it was.
And even that, again, I could go into so much detail about this. But they weren't saying you have to get vaccinated. What they were saying is, if you would like to go across the border, you have to get vaccinated. And it wasn't even Canada that was stopping them from going into the American... It was the States saying you can't cross. So it was like, not only was this rally not making any good points whatsoever, they weren't even well-researched points. Even if I agreed with their cause, it didn't even make sense for them to be protesting the Canadian government, because what they really wanted was to get across the American border, and it was the Americans that were saying you can't come across unvaccinated.
So they should lose their jobs?
And...
I was put in that position. Myself, where it's like I had to get vaccinated or else, like, I can't pay my bills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm vaccinated. I'm not for vaccination. I would, like, you know, my nana was a nurse. I am vaccinated for some things like that I got when I was a child. You know, things that have decades of studies attached to them. You know, I don't think that the government had any right or has any right to tell people to do that. I will never forgive them. Don't get me wrong, I fucking hate the government anyway. So it's not like it's really changing a lot of my mind, but I think it's gross to have people put in a position where they have to go against their morals. Whatever the cause is, like if someone sat you down and made you eat fucking, you know, all the shit
That's
that you can't...
completely different. Okay, are you ready?
You know?
So you ready? So first of all, no one hates the government more than me. I am an anarchist, and I would like to see all hierarchical systems of power abolished. Completely. No one hates the government more than me. That being said, let's go back to what makes a good person. A good person is someone who does not want to inflict harm on others.
Okay.
Vaccines are not for you. They're for protecting the overall population. They're for protecting vulnerable people. They're for preventing the pandemic from spreading and getting worse. So when you're getting vaccinated, even if, okay, fine, I'm perfectly healthy, I don't need it. Yeah, everyone fucking else does. And guess what? If you don't want to get the vaccine, you don't have to get it. But if you want to go and interact with other people who you might kill, then you've got to do something to protect them. And yes, that's a completely reasonable request to make. And as an anarchist, I was pro-mask before the government ever told anyone to wear masks. I was like, oh, there's a global pandemic, we should be wearing masks because that is a reasonable thing to do because it prevents the spread of the pandemic. And then the government was like, hey, guess what? Everyone should wear masks. And I was like, yeah, all the smart people already knew that. Because anarchists act for the greater good regardless of whether someone's telling us to do it or not. All of my anarchist friends who hate the government more than anyone, they're all the ones who have been pro-mask and pro-vax this entire time because they are logical people who understand that acting for the greater good is more fucking important than your own little worries and insecurities and conspiracy bullshit theories about whatever the fuck that you think the vaccine is, which, by the way, are all ridiculous because it's not even the government who has decided the vaccine is good. It is a global team of scientists. It's like the amount of scientists who have agreed upon this vaccine being safe, there's so many of them that it would be impossible for them to actually be conspiring. And if you actually think that, you are not a smart person.
I don't think a large portion of the people, like, I don't know if you're branding me a conspiracy theorist, but I'm not. The people that are branded conspiracy theorists,
mm-hmm.
like, they don't think that, well, I can't speak for everybody, but I think a large portion, you know, I have friends who are all over the map with this issue.
Uh-huh.
And I don't hear most of them saying, like, I think they believe the scientists that are behind this,
mm-hmm.
you know, and believe what the scientists are saying.
Mm-hmm.
There's other scientists that are saying other things. You could literally Google.
It's such a small minority. You can find anything on Google. Yeah, there's always going to be someone saying something.
But as the media works, the truth is generally, you know, not the main thing that you hear, right? Like, that's just how the media is.
I agree with that. And I think that, like, it's an unfortunate age that we live in where there is so much misinformation, and that's what's leading to these giant groups of people who are so unbelievably off the mark. But as someone who, again, I've never trusted the government, I've never trusted the media, and it's like I used to be okay with saying that I'm a conspiracy theorist, and now I would never say that because I don't want to be lumped in with these groups of extremists. And the thing is, there are people who are conspiring against us. They're called the 1%, but it's not a secret, and we know about it. So all of these people who are fighting against these insane conspiracies that don't make sense, if we all got together and actually fought the actual villains, we could make positive change. And I think that's what frustrates me the most about these people who are at this freedom rally and putting all this energy into screaming about this stuff. It's like, if we just dismantled capitalism, buddy, like, your life and all of our lives would be a million billion times easier, and the pandemic wouldn't have even become as big of an issue as it has. Because one of the biggest problems with the pandemic is that, first of all, the vaccines were patented, which they shouldn't have been. And so that meant that it wasn't getting into underprivileged nations. And that's how we keep getting new strains, is that these underprivileged nations who aren't vaccinated, that's where the new strains are coming from. If the vaccine was just made public domain and everybody had it, we'd probably already be over the whole pandemic. And then there's also the point that, again, capitalism, everyone's being forced to work, and especially when, you know, we're in the middle of a huge wave and, like, it's... They're publicly saying, yeah, it's super dangerous to go out, don't hang out with your friends, don't see your family, blah, 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 but do go to work. Yeah, that's fucking insane. We shouldn't be going to work. Like, so there's a million problems with how the pandemic was handled. There's a million things that are worth criticizing, and there's so many things we should be fighting against, but I just don't... The people who are putting their energy into fighting that, I deem as being very selfish people, and I deem as being people who are not good at actually, like, they say they do their quote-unquote own research, but they just read, like, the same few things from the same few people and call that research. If you actually know how to do actual research, you know, first of all, how to look for sources. You first of all know how to, like, actually see who's saying this, where, like, and why, and like, what are they basing it on? And then also how many people are saying it. So again, sure, you can find 1 or 2 scientists who are like, yeah, the vaccine's bad. But like, how many fucking hundreds of thousands are like, no, it's good. So it's like, again, it's like, sure, you can find anyone saying anything, but you don't just follow that one nut job who's ranting alone in his truck. You fucking, like, actually look into it and think about it. So A, be smarter. B, don't be a dick. Not you.
I'm gonna be honest, like, you've probably judged hundreds of thousands of people you've never met, and that's just not something I'm not for that, you know? There's so many things that I disagree with your, you know, and I respect your opinion. Mm-hmm. I don't think everybody that's for, you know, any cause. I don't think everybody that supports Trump is stupid or a horrible person. I don't think anybody that is pro-vaccine is an idiot, or everybody that is anti-abortion is a fucking asshole. Like, I don't know everybody. Yeah. Am I anti-abortion? No. I'm pro whatever the fuck you want to do. Stop telling me what the fuck to do. And I don't like judging people, so, you know, when I see shitty people, I let them know. When you saw the trucker freedom convoy, you mostly saw all, you know, when people are trying to say, oh, the people that are, you know, trying to paint this thing as a bad thing, you're gonna get a lot of, you know, the spray painting of the Nazis and the flag waving. What you're not gonna get is those same Nazis getting punches in the face and other people fucking cleaning up their Nazi symbols. You're not gonna get as much as that, you know, because that's not what feeds social media. Those Nazis weren't getting punched in the face at that rally until the anarchists showed up. People like negativity way more than they like fucking positivity, whether they fucking admit it or not. That's the shit they fucking click on, you know? So, so like, I don't think everybody there was bad. I don't think you're a horrible person if you got vaccinated. I don't think you're a horrible person if you're not. I don't give a fuck. It's like, I just don't think that, you know, I'm anti-government. I don't think that they should be telling me what to do. I don't think anybody should really be telling me what to do except for me. I'm not hurting anybody. If I was being a shit person, that's the thing about being unvaccinated, you are hurting people. That's the thing. I don't know. I think there's lots of diseases that, you know, have been more contagious that we haven't taken, you know, the precautions that we're taking for COVID. I think that should have been taken for AIDS 100%. I think that since the vaccines rolled out, most of the people that have died of COVID have been vaccinated. You know, I just don't think that there's enough. I'm also a man of science. I'm also a man of science. It's not true that most people who have died have been vaccinated. That is 100% like so off base. That's not even. I don't think there's enough time for anybody. Like, no matter what you say, there hasn't been enough time for us to be confident that these are safe vaccines. There actually is, because they've been developing this type of vaccine technology for a long time. They had already started developing it because there was other types of SARS viruses. So it's not a brand new vaccine technology. It's actually one that the best scientists in the world have been working on for a very long time. And when COVID came around, they already had this vaccine technology figured out. All they had to do was tweak it to pinpoint it for the specific strain of SARS. However, it's not a brand new concept. And also, they devoted all the best scientists in the world and so much funding to it. So that's also why it was able to happen more quickly than the development of other remedies, because there aren't as much resources being devoted to them. That logic doesn't make sense because of how the, you know, the variants have played out. If we were already there and we were so close to this one, we should have been that much closer to the variants and stuff like that and been able to nip them. But before, again, every variant is different, so that's why they already had the vaccine technology. They had to make it work for the first. Yeah, but they always had vaccine technology. No, but not. So there's this particular type. So this particular type of vaccine technology is different than old vaccines. For example, like for any of the other, like the ones that we were all vaccinated for as a kid, that is a different type of vaccine technology. This one was developed for the SARS virus, which does affect you differently. So it's actually like a different type of vaccine. So, but again, they had been working on this type for a long time. And again, yes, COVID comes out, it's a slightly different strain of SARS than the one they've been working with. So they've got to tweak it to work with the COVID strain. Yes, now there's new strains. And again, we wouldn't keep having new strains if the vaccines were more widely distributed. Because the reason why we're getting new strains is that every time somebody contracts the virus, it morphs and mutates, and that's how you wind up with new strains. Okay, so let me ask you this. As an anarchist, a punk rocker, a fucking, you know, maybe authorian or government, whatever. For sure, 100%, yeah. You know, like, you don't understand why people would... You've admittedly saying, like, yourself, it's a newer vaccine. Well, like, I mean, SARS didn't happen too long ago.
Right.
Even from that point, if we're even, like, I'll go with you, from that point till now, still isn't long. Do you know what I mean?
Again,
compared to every other vaccine. So I'm just asking you, like, you don't understand why someone would question that and not want to do that? You don't understand?
Okay, I do.
You don't have to be for it, but
I do understand why people question the government, and that's why. And again, it's like, you know, you're saying, well, I'm judging all these people. Anyone in my life who's anti-vax, I've sat down and had conversations with them about it. I'm not like kicking them out of my life. I'm not saying I'm not saying get fucked. I'm like, no, let's sit down and talk about this. But here's all the reasons why what you're saying doesn't make sense. But I get why you would want to question the government. I really do. And that's also why I'm saying it's so dangerous that we live in this age of misinformation, because I think, yes, you should question authority. Yes, people are conspiring against us, and we should be concerned about that. For sure. So I understand why people have that train of thought. But then what I'm saying is what gets lost in translation there is like, okay, sure, it's good to question things, but then where are you getting your information? And where most people are then getting it is not reliable sources, and then they're jumping to conclusions that don't actually make sense and that don't benefit the greater good. So as an anarchist, and all true anarchists believe this, is that if we were to actually abolish the government and we were to actually have a functioning anarchist society, that would rely on everybody thinking on behalf of the greater good. That's the only way you can abolish authority and have a functioning society where everyone isn't just murdering each other, is we have to collectively agree that we're going to act on behalf of the greater good. What is good for one is good for all. And so, again, with the vaccine, it's like, you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the greater good of society. You're not doing it for the government. You're not doing it for whoever's telling you. No one's telling, well, yeah, no one's telling you.
I don't think we need to all agree to be, like, don't get me wrong. I think the shitheads and the assholes need to get their due.
I think that if you don't like the government, then I think you do have to agree. I think if you don't want a government, then yes, you do have to agree to get along.
We're never going to not have a government.
Yeah.
It's like saying, like, oh, let's get rid of guns. Obviously, the best thing would be to never have guns. We know that. But, like, it's
going to be hard to get rid of guns.
You know, it's just like the government's not going anywhere.
I didn't say that. I said it's going to be hard to get rid of guns.
You think the government will go before guns?
It's very possible, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no reason it can't happen.
I would love to, like... And like, see, here's the thing: if the guns go, the government's not going.
The biggest problem really is just that, like, because everything's so connected globally now, it's pretty much like America would have to fall as a superpower before other countries are going to have any hope in hell of mobilizing. Because what's happening right now is there's been tons of countries who have managed to overthrow their corrupt governments, but what happens is America swoops in, pretends to save the day, and then they just take over that country.
Yeah.
And that's happened over and over and over again. So that's what would happen again now. And so pretty much America needs to follow as a superpower. And then the rest of us have a hope in hell of attaining any kind of freedom. But it is possible. And it's as far as I'm concerned, it's worth fighting for. And it's worth fighting to not only work towards a place where we don't have a government. And again, it's like all the anarchists I know, like, largely are not violent people. Like, yeah, will we step up and punch a Nazi if we have to? 100% yes. But we're not actively out, like, seeking violence. We're out seeking positive change, and we're out seeking positive change for the greater good. And most anarchists are out doing charitable things. We're out doing mutual aid. We're out fucking, you know, like
right, we're going to bring it home now.
We're here, like,
I got it.
The whole point of it is that we're helping each other. That's the whole point of anarchy. So I feel like hating the government and also acting selfishly, to me, don't go together. Those are two separate things to me. I think you can't do both. Because if you hate the government and you want to be selfish, then what you're saying is you want a very horrifying world to live in.
Yeah, but I just think that we could have two different versions of what selfish is, and we could both be right.
Okay, so all the non-vaccinated people could just go in their own little camp and not affect the rest of us. All the non-vaccinated people, you guys can just all go in your own little camp and not affect the rest of us.
I don't think it's going to make a difference. Because if you're hanging out
with other people, then yeah, but
I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think COVID is just going to be in 3 years. 5 years. We're going to look back on this time and be like, wow, we really blew that out of proportion. COVID's going to be another flu. Do you
think all the hundreds of thousands of people who lost family members are just going to look back in 3 years and say, oh wow, we blew that out of proportion?
Look,
my fucking kid's dead, but we sure blew that out of proportion.
See, now you're just trying to make me feel bad.
Yeah, I am. Because you should.
No, but like people die of illnesses. Like someone died of cancer an hour ago. Do you feel bad for them?
Of
It's
course
like,
I do. I
don't
feel
get me
bad for
wrong, that's
everybody who
wrong,
suffers.
and like obviously that sucks. But it's
Of course I
like
feel bad for them.
it's like there's no. Like, people die all the time
So you just
for
finished
other
telling me-
things, and we're only paying attention to COVID.
So you just feel like...
I just think it's going to be a regular thing in 5 years.
You
It's
just
going to be
finished
like
telling
every
me-
cancer, AIDS, hepatitis, whatever other fucking people die from, it's just going to be another thing. No one makes a big deal about those things,
So-
but then a new disease comes along.
People do make
you know?
big deals about those things for sure.
Yeah,
And
but I mean, like...
you just told me that I shouldn't judge.
When were we
You just told me I shouldn't judge anybody because you like everybody, and then you went on to tell me you don't care about all of these people who die all the time. So which is it? Do you like everyone, or do you
I'm
not
gonna
care?
show you the tape. I
that
never
everyone's dying?
said I don't care. Okay.
You just did.
No, I said that like people die all the time, and it's bad that they die, but like it's not directly affecting me, man. Like,
So yeah, exactly.
You know?
So it's, again, selfish. It's not directly affecting
I don't.
you.
It's not. I don't
you.
know. I don't know what to tell
So what
you,
about
man.
all those people who you like and care
Okay,
about?
but what about all the people that have had? You know, what about those people that have had family members die from the vaccine? You don't care about them. What a piece of shit you are, Bones.
Once again, it's about looking at everything in a fucking grander scheme, and
Yeah, but
that
everyone
percentage
has-
is so. That percentage
Everyone has
is
a different-
so small. So
Okay,
again,
so
it's
you
this-
go tell those people that had family members die to take the vaccine and come
Right.
at them with your argument, and you're not going to understand?
So again, yes, that's sad. It's
You're
terrible.
both right.
But-
The thing is, you're both right.
But it's
You
comparing.
just need to learn how to live with people that disagree with you.
It's logically
you know?
comparing the odds and saying, okay, we all take the vaccine and 0.0013 of people will die, or we don't take the vaccine and fucking like a way larger number of people are gonna die. It's that whole like.
Are they, though?
It's the whole. Yes, they already have. Hundreds of thousands of people have already died of COVID.
I don't
Hundreds of
think
thousands.
there's anything that you could show me that would prove the vaccine prevented any people dying.
It's been proven time and time again
I
by the
don't
fact
know,
that
man.
the
I don't think
majority
it
of the
has.
people in the hospital are unvaccinated. That is statistically
it
true.
has.
That is statistically true.
I don't know, man. I
Again,
disagree.
so you don't think that, but again, I'm actually looking at logic and statistics and reason. So that's
yeah,
the
but
difference.
everyone you don't have access to information I don't have. You know, it's not like you're sitting there with all these like grand fucking master
I would just say
plans,
that
and
I've
I don't
clearly
have.
spent more time reading about it.
I don't know. I think you maybe have an opinion going into it, and so maybe you find things that cater to your opinion.
Again, I
You know?
I don't like the government either, and I question everything too. So I formed this opinion based on logic and reason. I did not form this opinion because the government told me to.
I don't know. For me, logic and reason is always in the middle, and it doesn't seem like you're very much in the middle on
How
this.
is that?
On this.
Being in the middle is not logical. That's just being
I don't
fucking
know.
apathetic. That's just called like not even caring enough about anything to even try.
I don't know. I don't think it
Centrists
is.
are like honestly almost worse.
I
than
don't
fucking
think it
extremists.
is to just
because
like,
they're just complacent.
there's
Again, being
no
in the middle is like being a
complacency.
quote unquote good
I'm a very
cop. That's
opinion
like
person,
that's
and
like
I just don't think. See, I'm not coming at it from like left or right. That's not how I come at things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like to just talk with people and
Yeah.
see how people are and see how people treat other people. And
except for all those people who are
And
dead. You
so-
don't care about them.
no, I obviously care about people that have died. I know people that have died.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not even a joke to me. I'm just saying like, what about all the other ways people are dying? More people have died from things than COVID.
So all the other illnesses are not as contagious and not as deadly, and also we are
COVID
fighting.
is not
also, we are
deadly,
fighting
though,
to
man.
cure. We are
It's
fighting to
not
cure. Like
deadly.
it's not like we don't try to find cures for other illnesses. Like,
if you
we
came
do.
at it and we were like it was really actually like high, like really deadly.
It is.
It's really not.
So many
though, man.
people have died.
Oh man, the percentage of people that have got it and that have died. You're telling me that it's not on the lower end?
Of what? Compared to what? Like genocide?
Any pandemic.
And there's vaccines. Guess what? Every other pandemic, they developed vaccines for them. That's why we don't have those illnesses anymore.
What illness? Ah, man. Again, not the same vaccines that cured polio, or if that's where you're coming
Right.
from. So,
And
like, there's
what's your
no
point?
science to back anything.
And how long do you think they
that
took
is
to develop
saying
the
that
polio vaccine? Would you have
fucking
taken
longer
that?
than
Would
this.
you have taken that if you were in the midst of the polio pandemic?
Possibly. I took this. You're talking to me like I didn't take it. I did take it. You know?
Yeah.
I'm just pissed because it wasn't my choice.
Well,
my girlfriend had it.
You would have had to get a
My
different
girlfriend has it.
Yeah.
And I don't have it. She's a fucking scientist.
Yeah.
We live perfectly happy together, Bones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so you're saying she doesn't have the vaccine?
She got it way before me.
Okay, yeah,
before we were supposed to get it. She got it when she could get it because she wanted to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so like I'm telling you that if you disagree, you can get along with people.
Yeah,
it's
and
not
I'm
about being
telling
like, you think my way or you're a piece of shit. I don't believe that, man.
Yeah.
You know, I think people are pieces of shit in every group. You know what I mean? I think there's...
The way that this whole conversation started was, I told you, that the people who I was talking to about the trucker rally, they agreed with me that it was racist and dissociated themselves from the rally. They're still anti-vax, and I still talk to them. I'm reminding you that that's how this conversation started.
I don't think
that's how this
that you're a
conversation
super
started.
judgmental. Like, I'm not... I don't think you're, like, super far end.
Yeah.
I just think we disagree here.
Right.
Like, I'm not acting like... You seem like a reasonable... We've been having this discussion for like an hour, disagreeing with each other, you know?
I'm still sitting here.
So this is what I said like 5 minutes ago, that I wanted to bring it back to this, because what you said, I just remembered now.
Okay.
Okay, so what is your whole thing about anarchy?
Mm-hmm. My whole thing about
What
anarchy.
is like the whole... No, not the whole thing, but what is like your main key thing about anarchists or for the greater good, right?
So, yeah.
Okay, so do you not think... What would you tell... one of your friends if they were like, or just anybody, they don't even have to be your friend, just someone that's like young and like is aware of all the shit you said and all the shit I've said and is like, I'm gonna fucking become a cop, like I'm gonna fucking change it. Or you just gonna be like, nah man, don't try anything, because lots of people could say exactly what you're saying about the government or just
I've seen people do that, but I've seen people do that with cops and with the military, and in both cases they just turned it into douchebags because those systems corrupt you.
Yeah, but I don't know. So you're just saying
and
don't
again,
try?
I am saying try, and again, it's like I spent my whole life fighting activist movements, and I'm doing things all the time, and again, mostly non-violent things that are
your heart's in the right, like.
It's like basically what real anarchists are doing is we're already building a system that will suffice without the government. We've already got these mutual aid networks in place. We're already learning how to live sustainably, help each other, exist in a way that's cooperative, exist in a way that's benefiting the greater good. We're all learning that and practicing that already. So we're already building the world that we want. And when the government's abolished, we're going to be fine. Everyone else is going to go fucking crazy for sure, because they've all been fucking conditioned to get in this dog-eat-dog mentality. But again, that's what I'm fighting to get away from personally, and to hopefully convince as many people as possible to get away from, because the more we shift to a mentality where we're all considering the greater good, the better the world's going to be. Whether we ever even get to the point where we ultimately abolish the government or not, that's still the ultimate mentality.
Okay. And your mentality and that cop who wants to go and become a police officer is the exact same. Do you get that? You're just coming at it from different angles.
And I do.
You know? And it's like your paths, all the things that you've gone through in your life have led you to be like, I'm going to approach this way. And I don't think that either of you are wrong. Most cops I've met are dicks, like I said. You know, I've been assaulted by cops.
Me too.
Like,
many times. I've had friends who became cops, and I did stay friends with them for a while. And I had friends who joined the military, and I'm also adamantly opposed to the military. And I stayed friends with them for a while. And honestly, over time, like I said, the system corrupts them. Like,
see, that's the thing with the military too. It's like, I get like the idea of going into that. That's why, like, a lot, like for me, it's like, the actual foot soldiers, I have so much respect for them. I think maybe they're thinking of it, like, obviously we think of it differently, because I would never go and
murder another human being just to protect your capitalist overlords.
But like in some way, their heart is in the good place. I think the evildoers are the ones telling them what to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, so I also had my second encounter with a good cop. I was super poor and just paid my rent. Didn't have any money for food, all right? And I literally had maybe like $3 or $4. And went to Sobeys and like jacked a bunch of shit. Like, nice. I mean, like I got a like lasagna in my pants and like was stuffing things like, you know, grabbed a couple packets of sauce. like just things that I could add water to, and then I actually bought a couple
That's
things
what
of
you do.
pasta.
I was gonna say you have to be smart when you're stealing. You at least look like you're buying something.
So I bought a couple things of pasta, and I used like the rest of my money for that, and then I had other things that I could add to the pasta. And it was good. I could eat for a few days, you know? And then when I was checking out, after I paid for the pasta, somebody like approached me and was like, "Do you have anything you haven't paid for?" And I was like, "No. Like I just got this." And they're like, "Well, we saw you with this, and then you all of a sudden didn't have it."
For future reference, that's when you run, because cashiers are not legally allowed to chase you.
No, it wasn't a cashier.
Oh, okay.
I've run before. Believe me, I've been in situations where I've ran, but there was literally no, like, there was store employees, and then there was the security guard, and it was just, like, literally nothing, and I was like,
think
all right,
if it's an actual security guard, like, they are allowed to chase you. It's just not if it's a cashier.
You give me this stuff, and, like, and then so I was, like, showing him the packets and stuff. He's like, all right, you got to come in the office. So I went in the office, and, you know, when the cops got there, I'm taking like the frozen things out, and they had a big garbage can in the office, and he went out to talk to the cop. So I took all the other stuff that he didn't know about, and I hid it underneath the garbage bag in the garbage can.
Nice.
And so I ended up only getting like caught with like the little packets of sauce.
Nice. Smart.
And then I was in the car, and I was on probation at this time, all right?
Oh, fuck.
And the cop was like, "Hey, like, do you have any money on you?" And I was like, "Man, like, I don't. Like, if I had money, like, I wouldn't be stealing this shit. Like, I bought this pasta to eat with the sauce."
Yeah.
You know? And he's like, "Oh, like, I'm gonna, like, I see you're on probation, but I can't see what your conditions are." Have you ever been on probation?
Mm-hmm.
So every probation order, it says, keep a peace and be a good behavior.
Yeah.
Every single one. It's like the generic. Sometimes that's the only condition on your thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's always on there. And he's like, "Yeah, like, I'm just going to see what your conditions are." And he legitimately, like, fake called, like, the station.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, man, I couldn't get an answer, so I'm going to let you go, just, like, next time."
So that... He was painting himself to look good there, but in actuality...
That was good, though.
So when you get caught stealing from a store... It's up to the store, it's discretion whether or not they decide to press charges against you. It's not up to the cop whether or not you get charged. The store chooses whether or not to press charges against you. If you have less than X amount of items stolen, they're not going to do it because it costs them more money to press charges against you than it does for the amount that you have stolen.
But this is for someone not on probation.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how the probation charges impact that, but the cop does not choose whether or not to charge you for theft of private property. It's the person that you've stolen from that chooses whether or not to charge you with that theft. So the cop was pretending to be nice. It was actually probably really the store. And this cop was probably more just trying to scare you and be like, "Yo, I could fuck you up right now, but I'm not gonna." That's how I perceive that story.
No, I'm on probation. Mm-hmm. I get caught stealing. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need anything else. I'm breaking my probation conditions. Yeah. He doesn't need any permission from the store.
Yeah, I guess that's not keeping the peace. I guess you're right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Either way.
I'm not even saying...
He's still complicit in the system. My original argument still stands.
I just don't know, man. I think there's some people in there that are trying to break the walls down
from one homeless person just for not having a house.
Yeah, but that's just assuming, you know? That's assuming the worst. I don't assume the best, and I don't assume the worst. You know?
Like most cops, like depending what jurisdiction you're in, but most of them have a quota to meet, so they have to.
But come on,
arrest.
Just say that was nice. What he did for me was nice.
All right.
He could have been a douche, but that was nice.
I'm gonna call it lucky.
I felt real lucky, yo. I'll be real. I felt mad lucky.
I'm gonna call it lucky.
All right, yo. I'm for serious shit. Oh fuck. Let's get into top 5.
All right.
Fuck. That was intense. You better fucking hug me at the end of this shit.
Do you want to hug right now?
Let's do it. Let's fucking hug it out.
Break the tension.
All right. What do you want to start with?
So top 5s. Let's go with my top 5 favorite bands.
All right. I feel like we're gonna have heavily different bands.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and you might make fun of one of my bands, but I don't give a fuck.
Is that just gonna start a new argument?
No, I don't care. This kind of shit is like, it's all just, I mean, as much as you know, music is math, it's also art. So I just feel like, at the end of the day, like,
and we both agree.
It's whatever
we
you
both
like.
agree that we hate pop music, so I think we're good on that.
We're starting off good.
Yeah.
All right. You want to go first?
Sure.
All right, do it up.
Number 1, So my favorite bands change all the time, like anyone's.
Yeah.
But the one I think that always stays the same, like no matter, like if you asked me like last month or in 6 months, I'd probably have a different top 5. But the one that's always going to be in there, always, is The Clash. Because that was my first band that I like truly fell in love with. You know, when I was younger, there was like, when I was a kid, there was some bands I enjoyed. Mm-hmm. But when I was, I think it was like 13 years old, I found The Clash. And it just fucking impacted me in such an intense way that nothing will ever impact me that intensely, I don't think, ever again. Because at that point in time, I had never really heard punk at all. Like, maybe I'd heard Green Day, but you know what I mean? It was like, it wasn't, I didn't know about it really. And my whole life, I've always had these very anti-authoritarian ideals. Since I was literally a child, I have questioned the system. I started skipping school in kindergarten, and I am not kidding you. I would at recess, I would run to the fence, hop it, and just run away. And I was 4. I had nowhere to go. Like, I'd run, and then I would just run until, like, I don't know, I get to, like, a park and sit down and be like, well, not at school.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah, they eventually come find me because a missing kid is a pretty big deal. And then eventually I had my own sign-up sheet in the office, and none of the other kids did. I was the only one, and I had to sign in every day at the start of the day and after every recess to make sure that I hadn't just run away again. So I always questioned the system, and obviously, you know, my parents and teachers and everyone always told me that I was crazy for doing so. And then I found The Clash, and Joe Strummer was like, no, the system is fucked. And I was like, I knew it, you know? And to have someone who was like an adult and was like respected, and he was saying all the things that I'd been thinking this whole time, and I was like, I'm not crazy. This is legitimate. Like, there's legitimate things to think. And then, yeah, just, you know, musically, like, they're so influential in so many ways. Like, they're one of the first punk bands ever, but then they were also, like, throughout their albums, they amalgamated so many different influences, and in such an interesting way that I feel like no other band has really done exactly what they did. So even though they only have like 5 albums, and I don't even necessarily listen to them that often anymore, to me they're just always going to be like...
Yeah, they played the biggest
So
role.
important, yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
So The Clash. Number 2, I'll say Motorhead. I feel like that doesn't even need much of an explanation, just fucking Motorhead. That's my explanation. Motherfucking Motorhead. I mean... forefathers of punk and metal, and just badass, coolest fucking rock and roll gods of all time. So Motorhead. Number 3, I'll get a little bit less mainstream and say Voivod, who I think should be better known than they are. So they're a Canadian thrash metal band. They've been around since, I want to say 81 or 82. They have like 15 albums, and all of the albums are good. And not even, okay, I said they're a Canadian thrash metal band. That's like that's oversimplifying them, because they started off as like a thrash and speed metal kind of band, and then they, over the years, got more like progressive. And they have a lot of albums that are really weird and really complex. And normally I don't like music that's overly weird and complex, because I find it can often just be like wanky. Like a lot of I don't really like a lot of prog, and I don't really like a lot of like tech metal. Like I just find it's too like, I don't know. Yeah, wanky. You're just trying too hard to like prove that you can play well, and it removes like the feeling. Yeah. But Voivod does it well, where their music is complex, it's proggy, it's weird, but it's also still good. And they always have a really good message. Like they're very, very anarchist and very intelligent, and have just amazing lyrics. And I've met them several times, and they're like the nicest dudes. But they've been around since the beginning. So everybody always credits like the big 4 for inventing thrash metal. Everyone's like Megadeth, Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax. People argue sometimes that it should be Exodus instead of Slayer, but in any case, those are all American bands, and people ignore that there was like a bunch of Canadian bands doing the same shit at the same time. You had Razor, you had fucking Sacrifice, who else? Annihilator, and Voivod, and like all these bands get overlooked, and there was like German bands doing the same thing at the same time. You had Creator, you had Sodom, like there's so many bands that were like doing this sound, but like America always gets all the credit, which is so annoying and dumb, and Canadian art of every type always gets overlooked in every single field ever. So Voivod is like amazing, and they deserve way more credit than they get. So Voivod. So where are we at? That was number 3. Number 4, I'm gonna throw in another Canadian band who's even lesser known, but probably one of my current favorite bands. They're called Metallion, and they're also out of Quebec. Voivod's Quebecois, so is Metallion. They are, like, you wouldn't know them because no one does, but they're one of the best fucking metal bands that's, like, ever existed. They're more, like, new wave or British heavy metal, and thrash and newer British heavy metal are probably like my two favorite subgenres of metal. But it's like that Judas Priest-y type of metal.
Yeah.
But they're so talented. They're such good players and they write such good songs. But I think the reason why they're not better known, A, because they're Canadian, but then they also are just like the chillest, most like humble guys you'll ever meet in your life. And I find most people who play metal, especially that are on that level, who are that good and that technical, like they tend to get an ego. And not even just metal, every genre, every kind of music. Like once you get to a certain level of ability, you like get an ego about it. But the Italian guys, nah, they're just the chillest, most like lax dudes, and they would never toot their own horn over anything. And they still play like dive bars and DIY spaces and just like dirty fucking punk basements, and you know what I mean. They're just like. No ego about them, but I honestly think that they're one of the best metal bands going right now. So, yeah, Metallian. And for number 5, I'm going to put 3 bands at number 5. And I'll explain why. I'm going to put Death, Obituary, and Morbid Angel at number 5. Because they were all... And then I just finished saying how I hate that American bands get all the credit, and then these guys were American and they're credited for inventing death metal. But that Florida death metal sound is just like the best. Like that era of Florida death metal is like just some of the best fucking. And death metal is not one of my favorite types of metal necessarily. I don't listen to a lot of modern death metal, but those specific bands, their early albums, I've listened to those albums probably more times than I've listened to any other album. And those are the kind of albums like. Any of the first albums by Death, Obituary, Morbid Angel. They always say that like Diacide's one of the other big 4. I never got as into them. I don't even know if it's pronounced Diacide or Deicide. That's how much I don't care about them. But but those 3 you can put on any of the early albums, any time of day, any mood I'm in, any situation, and I'd be like, yes, they're so good. And I couldn't just pick one of them because I like them all equally, so they're all tied at 5.
Okay. I
gotta do an honorable mention too. What were you
gonna
say?
Go ahead.
I feel like I have to include at least one goth band because I'm listening to goth music my whole life, but the past few years I've been listening to primarily goth music, so it'd be weird to not put a goth band in my top 5. But then I don't even know which band. I'm gonna say, let's go with Echo and the Bunnymen. Okay, I'm done.
Don't know them. I forgot what I was going to say, but it doesn't matter. Alright. So I am going with my favorite band is they've been around for a long time. Originally they were signed to like Britney Spears' label.
Britney Spears had a label?
Like the label she was on, Jive.
Oh, okay.
And so like they released like a small EP. And then they were signed to a major label like right away, and then they dealt with like a lot of shit. They're a very like hybrid style. Like I'm a big nu metal guy, for real.
Okay.
Yeah, but like, they kind of went through shit with Jive, and they weren't willing to really make what Jive wanted. They got dropped, and then they signed to Kosh, and. Okay. They thought it was going to be something, and then they were put on all these restrictions, so they released this album that was
restrictions, how do you mean? Like the
just
label?
like things that they couldn't do,
right,
you know?
Yeah,
and so they released this album that was like one of the most vulgar albums you'll like some like
just
real
to piss
like
the label off?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
And so they got dropped from it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that album's a little more like their style is like really like funky hip hop, like hard rock, like that's it, but they branch off into like reggae and ska and like a lot of different shit.
Okay.
But yeah, that album was like mostly like a hip hop album. I can't even say that actually. Anyways, so then since then they've been doing like all their shit independently, and it's just been killer. This is them, Head PE.
What are they called?
Head PE.
Okay.
Head Planet Earth.
Okay.
And like
never heard of them.
Same with what you were saying about the egos. It's like super. They came to Toronto like a few years ago. Well, actually, like 2 years in a row. And like the first time they were at Opera House, and then like they were just kind of like hanging. They like travel in like an RV together and shit like that. And they have a little merch thing attached to the back, and they were like eating there. They had like their first poutine like beside me and my boy and shit. And it was like super dope. And then they came back. They're from California.
Okay.
Huntington Beach. And then the second time, I can't remember what it was, but it was a venue that's on top of another venue, and it's a rock, like, it's usually like, you know, lesser known artists from around go there. Hard Luck?
Maybe.
Is there Hard Luck somewhere?
Yeah, there's a Hard Luck in Toronto. And it's like above, like you have to go up a set of stairs to get to the venue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that might have been where it is. And so I'm walking up to it, and like the singer of the band's getting out, and he's fucking Paul, and his name's Paulo.
Okay.
But like his stage name is something else, but I didn't realize his real name was Paul.
Oh, okay.
And so like he remembered my name, and I just thought it was like, yo, the singer of my favorite band like remembered me. Like, aww. It's a pretty, like, yeah, you know, but it's kind of corny and like a little fanboy kind of moment, but it's like, that's fucking cool, man, you know?
Totally.
So like they're just really, really like humble dudes and play amazing music.
That's rad. I respect the whole label thing. Like, I've known a few bands that have done that, where like you get trapped in a contract you hate, so you just churn out like the worst shit ever just to piss them off. It's like, that's like the most punk thing ever.
The thing is, it's not even bad. It's just like they basically talked about, and he even like one of the lines, I could basically just sums up the album is like, they say I can't talk about sex no more.
Yeah.
But that don't mean that I won't titty fucking wreck this hoe. Like, you know, it's that kind of, like, they're coming at it from that, and they're approaching it very head on, and it wasn't like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not like the best, deepest line, but like it's just fucking punk rock and shit, you know? I love it.
Yeah.
Linkin Park, my second, not much to say about them.
Yeah.
My dog's named Chester Bennington.
Okay.
Third one is...
You told me your dog's name and I didn't even get the reference, because that's how much I don't know Linkin Park.
Okay, it's okay.
I mean, I know who they are, but yeah.
No, he passed away a few years ago, you know?
Okay.
And that's like, you ever had a celebrity death like affect you ever?
Yeah, like...
It was like the only one. Him and Ultimate Warrior.
I think for me, like growing up, like I watched a lot of my friends die, because I was just like a street punk, and you know what I mean? So I think for me, it's like, when celebrities die, like, yes, I'm sad. When anyone dies, I'm sad. But it's like, because I've already dealt with so much death on such a personal level, it's kind of like when people die, I don't know, I don't get as upset about it as some people, I guess, because I'm almost like numb to it, I guess. Like, it is upsetting, but it's also, like, you know what I mean? It's just like...
It was weird for me, man.
You're like, yeah, that's a bummer, but you're not like... I don't know, but I think the most recent one that did, like, actually get me to tear up was Norm Macdonald. Because, like, no one saw it coming, I think. I mean, but like, lots of deaths you don't see coming, but I don't know, there was just, like, something about his... I think it was just the fact that he had cancer and he kept it a secret. So then it was like, when he did die, it was like then knowing, like, oh, this poor guy's been suffering in silence, like, alone. You know what I mean? It was that whole, like, aspect of it that made it even heavier, I think. And then... I don't know, but I did shed a tear.
It wasn't by accident,
like,
though.
Was...
You know, it was his intention, and like, I respect it.
Oh no, totally. Like, oh, mad respect for him. Like the most respect for him. Like, I think that's why it was just like that one did kind of hit me. Yeah.
All right, so the next one I don't really listen to a lot, but like I guess maybe kind of similar to what you were saying about the Clash is like my first record that I ever bought was Green Day Kerplunk.
Nice.
And like, admittedly, their music has gone far south as of late, as of 10 years ago late, you know, even maybe a little bit before that, but like...
But they're still good for a pop band.
Those fucking, like, first, like, 4 or 5 albums that they did, like, just I could literally listen to every single one from front to back.
I still have those albums. I'm not getting rid of them.
They're so good, and so I have to put them on there. Limp Bizkit is my number 4.
Okay.
Huge Limp Bizkit fan. Don't care about the hate.
In my mind, Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park are the same band.
Wow,
like,
they're so different.
That's how much I know about them. I'm just
See,
like,
this is the thing. Like, when you're going into, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love metal too, so I wasn't like super ignorant to. But there's like a couple bands that I was unfamiliar, and you're talking about subgenres. I'm like, I don't know how deep she could go where I'm gonna keep up with this. But like, you didn't lose me, but you could have.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, that's how like. Yeah, like new metal is like its own thing for me, you know, and I have like the Slipknots of new metal, and I have, you know, the heavier side and the hip hoppier side and like the more electric side, and like, so like, for me, there's subgenres of new metal. There's
definitely subgenres, like, for sure, because there's different types of thrash as well. Yeah, I feel you, yeah.
Yeah, so Limp Bizkit is my number 4. And then, I don't know if you're into reggae, but UB40.
Okay.
You gotta know who they
I
are.
know who they are.
They
I know
are
who they are.
the person. They are the band that people always think is Bob Marley for so many songs, like Red Red Wine. Like they have the song. They have the version of Red Red Wine
I would have known
that is like. But everyone's always like Bob, and I'm like, no, motherfuckers. And I saw them like maybe like 5 years ago. The singer just passed away. Well, one of the singers, the main singer.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm just happy I got to see him.
Yeah, I'm happy you got to see them too. That was actually, when you asked me if any celebrity deaths hit me, that was like, I did have one opportunity once to see Joe Strummer, and I messed it up and didn't end up seeing him. And then he died shortly after, and that was one of those ones that I was like, fuck.
Yeah, it was weird when because like, straight up, I would like be online like, yo, you didn't know this person. Why does, and then that shit happened, and I'm just like, oh, fuck. All right, I get it a little bit. I don't even know why it affected me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I tried to like, this is legit. And it might sound corny as fuck, but I don't care. It's the truth. Like, that day, when I got the news, I was at work, and, like, people were messaging me. Because they know, like, you saying, like, oh, your top 5 bands could change all the time. Yeah. And for sure, if you ask me this in 6 months, some of those might be different.
Right.
But Linkin Park and Head PE have always been the like, they are for sure never changing. Those are my bands. And, like, it was weird. Like, I got emotional at work. Like, I'm a kind of, like... I'm very, like, hard on my sleeve, but, like, I'm not gonna cry in front of a bunch of people that, like, I'm not close with. And it was just, like, I'm gonna need a minute.
Yeah.
And I went, and it was like, what the fuck is this? This is
wrong
weird.
With that. It's just called human emotion.
Yeah, it's weird, though. You know? No real... It's like, our only connection was his art.
Yeah, well, and he remembered your name. Mm-hmm. But, like, in some ways, I feel like... I think it's definitely not healthy that I've become so numb to death. You know what I mean? It's just, like, I've had so many people die that... it doesn't affect me as much, but I don't think that that's, like, a good thing necessarily. No. And I'm even, like, I'm in, like, therapy right now, and I just finally got a therapist, like, 2 years ago for the first time in my life. And I'm combing back through my life going, like, oh, all this stuff that happened to me that at the time I brushed off, like, not even just my friends dying, but for sure that's one of them, but, like, traumatic shit happened to me that I just brushed off, because I was like, whatever, I'm tough, and, you know, I just gotta, whatever. Looking back on it, I'm like, no, that was fucking traumatic, and I need to, like, right? I need to give myself space to actually feel that. Like, I need to, like, actually let myself grieve and, like, actually let myself process it, because otherwise you're just, like, burying it and it becomes deep-seated shit, you know what I mean? Like, it's normal to grieve, it's normal to be upset, like, you should be, like, you know, that's...
So it's not like I really... I've been around, I have friends that have died. Like, there was like a 5-year run where, like, I would lose at least 1 or 2 friends from... OD or suicide, you know, suicide while they were OD, whatever the case is, you know, and it's like,
sometimes
I had this
real, I'm not sure which one it was,
I don't know, because this happened before, and I think this might have been like some sort of awakening. Oddly enough, a celebrity death was like maybe a changing moment of my life, but like my grandma, when she passed away, she lived in BC, and I was here living a shitty life, doing drugs, had no money. When she died, I couldn't go and, you know, see her. And then I had lots of friends and people that I was close to die after that. And it was like, I couldn't bring myself, even if I was like on the closer side with them, I couldn't bring myself to go to like their funeral or their services.
I usually don't go to funerals. Yeah, I have a hard time with them.
And like a few years ago, maybe last year, it might have been, I think it was last January, like, one of my best friends died. And I was like...
I'm sorry.
I was like, I can't not go. Like, for sure I'm gonna go. And I had never been to anything like that before, and I had avoided it because I felt like it was disrespectful to my Nana. Like, how am I gonna go to just my friend's thing? And
that's why.
I didn't even get to her. It was like this weird fucking struggle inside my head, you know? And, like... it was really like, man, I don't know if I've cried like that much, like ever in my life in like one moment. And I saw him, yo. It was my first time ever. I had seen like somebody I knew that was like homeless. Like, I wasn't close with them, but I knew who they were, and I saw them, and they had been dead outside. They'd slept outside, and they just, you know, came to whatever.
Yeah.
And so, like, but it wasn't the same, you know? And now I just...
And now you're making me feel like maybe that's part of my problem, is I always avoided the funeral. I've been to a few, but I've avoided a lot of them because I just felt like, I don't know. I just didn't want to go.
And it's not to say they're not worth it.
And I always had this moment where I was like, my dead friend is dead. they don't need me to be at their funeral to know that I respected them and loved them. You know what I mean? I was always just like, I can grieve in my own way. Like, I just feel awkward about going to the funeral. Like, I just feel
get
like...
it, totally.
Whatever. But now you're making me think, like, maybe I should have gone, because then maybe I would have, you know, cried more and processed it better, and maybe that's the whole point of it, is that you all go and help each other to, like, actually work through the emotions, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but I still feel bad about not going to my Nana's. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's okay. She knows you loved her.
I just wish God did something meaningful with my life or started, and she could have seen that before fucking, you know? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sure she saw things in you that she saw as being meaningful. Like, I'm sure she wasn't just like, oh, he's a waste of life. I'm sure she loved you, and I'm sure she knew you loved her.
She was like my mother to me, my Nana. You know, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Were you? How was your family thing? Do you have?
Not great.
Good relationship with any of them?
No, I would say our relationship is strained at best. I get along really well with my brother. He's really fucking cool. My brother, almost exactly like me, except better at life.
I was gonna be like a
like,
cop, but
oh
I'm not
God,
gonna do.
oh
Imagine, yo. I'm sorry.
If my brother became a cop, I would really struggle with that. I would keep talking to him, but no, he's like me, except like he's just like, you know, he got a PhD, and then he had a kid, and then he like really got his shit together. And he's just, you know, he's like a responsible adult. Even though he's younger than me, he's like, I look at him as being like the adult, and like I've never grown up, you know?
Yeah, but you could be looking at it that way, and he could be looking at it like, obviously I'm not saying he hates his life, loves his, you know, family or whatever, but like he could also be looking at it like, she's got the freedom, like, you know, you know, so...
And we certainly have a ton of respect for each other, and we certainly, like, appreciate both.
And you got a lot of, like, I mean, you're super talented, so, I mean, I don't think there's anything that you should, you know, be like,
I love my life.
Okay,
I do.
all right.
I love myself, and I love my life. I'm just not very good at, like, doing, like, things that you typically do as a grown-up, you know? I can't be on time for anything to save my life. I haven't done my taxes in 12 years. Like, you know, I just...
Yo, dude, you need to do your taxes. Dude, I didn't do my taxes for like 7 years.
Yeah.
And I did them?
Yeah.
Yo, I got so much money.
Okay, that's what I was hoping for. And then someone just told me yesterday, literally yesterday, maybe it was 2 days ago. Yo, it was yesterday. Then I'm like, and someone told me he was an accountant, and he said that because I haven't done them in so long, I'm going to get fines for not doing them.
What?
Because I was under the impression, because I was saying, I'm like, oh, I just moved to Toronto. Not really sure how I'm going to live in Toronto. I didn't really come here with a plan. Kind of thought I was going to make enough money doing stand-up. That's hilarious. So, now I'm like, well, I haven't done my taxes in 12 years. If I do that, I'll get at least, you know, whatever. I was hoping if I get $5-6 grand, pay my rent for a few months, I'll be okay, you know. But then I was like, and then I was talking to this guy, and he's like, no, like, you're going to get fines for not doing your taxes, and then that's going to subtract from whatever money they would have given you, and you might even owe them. And I'm like, well, I guess what you're saying is I should just never do them then? But you didn't get fined. I feel like I've talked to other people who got money back. I'm gonna talk to another accountant.
Definitely seek it out. Yeah, don't like.
You know, I should just ask my brother. Be like, hey, you're an adult. What do I do about this?
It's gonna sound super adult, but I can give you the name of my accountant.
That'd be great. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to movie genres.
Yeah. We're doing top fives, right?
It's all right. Don't worry. All right, movie genres. I'll go first.
Do it.
And I want to start off by saying, like, a couple of them, I don't know if they're legit movie genres, but for me they are.
Okay.
You know, I feel like on Netflix they would be.
I was probably going to say the same thing. So.
Okay, good. We're good. We're good then. All right. Superhero number 1. That's my shit.
Okay.
But, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of them are garbage too.
Right. But
they're still my favorite kinds of movies. They're really, like, almost the only movies I actually go to see in theaters.
Okay.
And then, like, the odd horror, the odd comedy. But mostly superhero movies.
See, I was like, as a kid, I was really into comics. Both my brother and I were.
Yeah.
Like we had like all the Marvel comics. Like we were mainly Marvel. We were mainly like X-Men, Spider-Man, like Hulk. Like those were like our favorites. But we were like into it. And up until I was a teenager, I still had like a ton of my X-Men comics, and I like had a lot of really cool ones that I had, you know, still in the fucking plastic with the, you know, and I was like,
oh yeah, I have so many.
And then I moved out of my parents' house when I was young, and I left a bunch of shit there, and my mom threw it all out, and man, some of those comics would have been worth a lot of money too, but after that I just kind of fell off of like
Yeah.
being into that, because then also I was just like homeless on and off over the years. You can't really have a comic book collection when you're homeless.
It happened to me too.
Yeah, same
I
thing.
picked up comics again. Like I had a bunch. I still had a few from back in the day, but like 95% of my collection was just gone because moving around and just living out of bags and
It's like I wish I could have at least sold it off or given it to someone who would have appreciated it. I feel like she literally just threw them out. I'm like,
that's
sad.
brutal. Eh?
So sad. But like when the Marvel movies started coming out, I saw the first few, and then I was just kind of over it. I haven't kept up with any of them. I haven't seen any of them. And it's like I get
there's as many good ones as there is bad ones.
But it's like the problem with that I have with it is that like most major Hollywood films, and again not all of them, but it's like same problem I have with pop music, where it's just like it becomes very formulaic, and then it's just like they're all the same movie, you know?
Excuse me, I burped there. This is why I prefer DC, folks.
Okay.
This is my Don't get me wrong, I love all the shit, but like DC, I just feel like regardless of whether you like it or not, like they're generally doing something different in their movies.
Right. I think
they
you're right.
take more risks.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that they're doing. It's like people all complain about the darkness of Batman. DC. What's DC like? We're gonna make this a horror thriller movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna make it almost 3 hours. Oh, you guys didn't like that movie was 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
Like they
and
just,
you know what?
they're
You're
like, this is what we do, man.
I've seen more of the Batman movies than I've seen Marvel movies, even though I was a Marvel kid growing up with comics. But you're right, they're fucking better movies. I totally agree.
For me, I just find them
totally agree. They're more
a little more consistent, at least with like the
and
Joker.
There's more depth to
you
them.
would never get like the Joker kind of movie in the Marvel. Just wouldn't. It wouldn't happen.
It's true. Yeah.
And
especially now they're owned by Disney. You're just gonna say owned by Disney. Yeah. Fucking bullshit.
So yeah, number 1, superheroes. Number 2, comedies.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I just always love, and like I mean whatever. It could be dark. It could be Wayans Brothers. It could be whatever. I'm all over the place as long as it makes me laugh.
Right.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. I'm into that.
And then my third is another one that's like I don't know, but it gets tossed around a lot. Feel goods.
Okay.
Cool Runnings or like like just those kind of Home Alone, like the
I didn't know you liked Home Alone.
Yeah, right.
I love that you have that tattoo.
Just
on your
those kinds of movies.
That's hilarious.
What do you have like tats?
I only have one, and it's ridiculous.
Is it like a homie tattoo?
So I let some drunk guy whose name I never learned. We just referred to him as Banjo at the time because he had a banjo. He was in this was in my buddy's kitchen. He was wasted, I was wasted, and I let him give me a lip tattoo.
Oh shit!
And it says Cunt Scum, which was the name of my band at the time.
I knew that. I knew that. Look at that.
It's and Cunt Scum, and we spelled it with a silent B at the end, so that it looked kind of like numb or thumb. It was like rounded and soft, to look at, like a lowercase C and a B. It's just like Cunt Scum. It's like pretty,
Yeah. I like that. That's awesome.
But the thing about this is I don't have any other tattoos. I've never really wanted them. I have a really problem with commitment in general.
Okay.
In general, in every aspect of my life.
Okay.
I just fear commitment. So I love art. I used to be a visual artist, and I've drawn up many tattoos that I thought about getting, and then I was always just like, no. And so with the lip, I'm like, at least it's hidden. Plus, a lot of lip tattoos often fade. So I'm like, if it fades, I don't care, because I don't want tattoos anyway. And if it stays, I also don't care, because it's hidden. Mm-hmm. But after I got it done, I found out why lip tattoos often fade. And so what it is that if you don't go deep enough in the skin, then it fades. Mm-hmm. But if you go too deep, it comes out the other side of your fucking face. And I let a drunk guy named Banjo do this, and not named Banjo. I don't know his name.
Close.
I could have cunts come upside down and backwards. Like, I'm not even a dude. I couldn't grow a beard. It would just be, I'd have to get like the black blonde. It would just be, oh God. Anyway.
Some of those blacked out things look dope.
They do, especially on the arms. There used to be a skater in the 90s that rode for Black Label, and I was talking about him the other day, and I said Christian Svitak, and I was wrong. It wasn't him. But one of the Black Label skaters. But he did that on purpose, because a lot of times it's like you're covering up your old shitty tattoos, but this guy just wanted it. So his arms were pretty much full black, but there was like patches. It was kind of like a neat sort of like splotchy sort of pattern.
Yeah.
And it was like his full sleeves, both arms, like all the way down his hands, just black with like these weird splotches, and it looked so fucking sick. It can look really cool.
Yeah, like like I'm actually thinking like my thing is I really like the solid blacked out parts, and then you treat that the same as a normal arm, and you just do tattoos over it with white.
And that's really new that they're even able to do that. But I've seen it done well. You know, Blaine, why can't I think of his last name right now? Metal comic.
Smith.
Yeah. He has a really sick.
Does he?
Yeah. Oh, ask him to see it next time.
Yeah,
it's
he's actually
really
doing my
well
show.
done.
Or he just did my show because this is coming out in like a little bit. Yeah. Blaine, I'll have seen it by then. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, totally. Love that guy.
But yeah, dope. I might get something like that. I also want to get like, man, I could talk about that. That's a 3-hour episode for me. Tattoos.
I do love the silly finger tats, and I love these. That's a hilarious idea, and they're well done too.
All right, so where was I? Okay, horror is my number 4. We kind of bonded when we first met with our love for Evil Dead, I think.
Yeah.
And that's like more of the good comedy horror as well.
Yeah.
But horror is definitely. And thriller, I don't know. It's very similar, but not exactly a horror. What do you think is like the major difference? Gore?
Between horror and thriller? Thrillers, I think, really revolve around like suspense, right? Like it's like the anticipation, I think, in a thriller maybe. Whereas horrors, it's not that they don't have suspense, but they're not as hung on it, and it's more like in a horror, you'll build like small amounts of suspense, but then something happens. Whereas to me, a thriller is more like there's like this drawn out, which is why I don't like thrillers, because they fucking just drive my anxiety through the roof. I can't handle it. Depending. I mean, there's some that I can dig, but it's just like, oh my god, it's so stressful.
I get it. What about you?
So yeah, I do love horror movies, but I am picky about them. But I think, like, as a category of like one of my favorite genres, I would specifically say B horror movies.
Okay.
Because, I don't like Hollywood in general. There are some good Hollywood movies, and I'll get there. But I think like with B movies, I really, really appreciate just the effort that people put into it. You know, because when you have no budget, it's that much harder to do anything, and then when you do it well, it's that much more impressive. When you have a huge budget, it's not that impressive that you just got someone to CGI in whatever the thing was you wanted.
I'm not a fan of CGI.
Me neither.
As a person who loves superheroes, I know it's hard to deal with, but like, like anytime, I don't think any of it's good. I know it's necessary sometimes, but like...
I wouldn't even say necessary, but it's like, if you have a big budget, there's times where you might as well use it, but... I think
maybe easier, I guess.
We talked about, like, when we talked about Evil Dead, and I was saying how, like, the claymation that they use when the demons are, like, decomposing, that's just, like, that's my fucking jam. Like, that shit gets me so excited. Because I'm like, who would even think of that? Like, who would even think of being like, I'm going to make this a live-action movie, I'm going to have this person's innards be claymation, and then have them slowly crawl apart into, like, it's just so ridiculous, and it looks so cool.
Yeah.
I love that shit. And like all the trauma movies, you know, and just any movie that really goes like ham on the crazy practical effects.
Are you a Kevin Smith fan?
I am.
How do you feel about his horror movies? I feel like Tusk and Yoga Hosers. Have you seen them?
I have not seen those, so I guess I'm not a Kevin Smith fan.
Oh man, dude. I feel like you'd love them.
How do I not even know about those?
They're exactly they're that genre. Like, they're not
newer?
comedies.
Like newer as in like within the last 15, 20 years?
7, 8 years maybe?
Okay, then that's why I don't know. I haven't paid attention to anything recent that's happened at all.
Definitely. Yeah. They seem like they'd be right up your alley.
Yeah.
So the second one is called Yoga Hosers, and it's basically about these like evil sausage Nazis called Bratzies.
Okay.
It's just insanely ridiculous, and they'll like jump in your asshole and shit to kill you.
God.
Like it's... Yeah, but it's fun.
Yeah.
You know? It's fun.
No, and I love Kevin Smith. Like, I just recently sold my VHS collection, which I'm still a little bit, like, having a hard time with. But I had all of his early stuff. Like, I had Mallrats, Clerks, Chasing Amy, Dogma.
His most respected stuff, I feel like.
Well, it's all of his early stuff.
Yeah,
but, I mean, I just haven't kept up with what anyone's doing lately, so I didn't even know he had that. But I love him, and I love cheesy horror, so if he's making cheesy horror, I'd probably love it.
Check. Tusk is actually, like, it has its moments, but... Yoga Hosers is the more of the cheesy too, but they're both really good.
Okay.
They're really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other reason I like the practical effects, it's like, A, it's impressive that you did that. B, it doesn't look real enough that it's like actually upsetting. Like I hate like torture movies, like the fucking like Saw movies and shit, and like Hostel and shit like that. Like I hate those kind of movies. Like I don't enjoy watching a realistic depiction of people suffering. Like I don't understand how it's enjoyable to anyone. Like I think like slasher films are funny, gory films are funny because it's like clearly just fake and overdone and ridiculous, right? Mm-hmm. But like as soon as it's like you're just watching an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of someone just legitimately suffering, like no thank you. That's why. So I
prefer the older horror myself too. I was a fan of maybe like 2 of the Saws. But again, there was things like, I agree with you. I think a lot of the scenes are just like why do we have to look at this happening for 5 minutes? Like, it's just, okay, give me like 10, 30 seconds of it. You know? And then like, let's move on.
And give us 10, 30 seconds and overblow it so that it looks like
shock
silly.
And awe. That's all. There's no like, it's like they tend to always be lacking just like meat and story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for me, the movie has to either be like over the top ridiculous, or if it's not, then it's got to have a good story, a good plot, and ideally both. I mean, like, Night of the Living Dead, the first zombie movie ever, like
amazing.
The plot's incredible, the characters are incredible, the acting's incredible, and also he was the first person who, like, made zombies. And they did that with a budget of, what, like $500 less, maybe, I think?
Really?
Oh, yeah. Like, it was nothing. It's one of the greatest movies ever. So, yeah, B-horror, for sure. Okay, right. What else? Sci-fi. Sci-fi is my favorite genre of books and of movies, I think. Probably my top favorite.
I'm not crazy into sci-fi, but I do like all like the realistic space sci-fi stuff. That's what I like. Have you seen
Gattaca?
I don't think so.
It's my favorite movie of all time, I think. Oh, there's a few, but Gattaca's so good. And
the last one I think I saw that was like decent was
I guess Gattaca isn't technically in space. I haven't seen Life, but it's about humans on Earth going to space. Space is related anyway. Yeah. But it's a really fucking good movie. Right. I've not seen Life. Is that a newer one?
Yeah, it has a few people that you'd recognize, but I can only think of Ryan Reynolds right now. I feel like he dies right early. Okay. I don't know. It's interesting. I thought it was okay.
I need to like make some time to just like catch up on.
There's too much. That's the thing. Like you're like, I need to see this, and then it's like,
so many things.
Well, what do I pick? I'm just gonna watch The Office.
I just literally haven't had spare time in like 2 years, so I haven't seen like anything new because I'm just like, who has time for this? I don't even understand.
It's nice to be busy though, no?
It is. Well, it is when you're busy with good things. Whereas now that I'm in Toronto, I'm busy with like trying to throw myself at comedy, and that is great. But it was like a lot of it was being busy with just like moving and like fighting my landlord and being sick and just like less fun things.
I gotcha.
But yeah, but now I'm busy with fun things, but now I'm still busy. But yeah, it is good. Okay, movie genres. Okay, what did I say? So I said B-horror and I said sci-fi.
Yeah.
What else? And as far as sci-fi goes, it's like I love the cheesy ones. Like I love like all the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, but then I also love the really well done ones as well, like Blade Runner. Like,
okay.
Yeah. The old and new Blade Runners are like some of the best movies ever.
Yeah, why not?
And
why
like,
can't you like
and same with
like
I like all sci-fi. I think pretty much. Okay, and then and comedy sci-fi too, like fucking what do you even call it? What was that? Space Troopers, Starship Troopers.
Oh yeah.
Like all of it's good. Okay. Then it starts getting. Those are the only again I guess like clearly defined genres, and then that's where it starts getting muddy for me too, because I'm like, well, I like films that are like artsy and weird, and that could be a lot of different types of things. But it's like, like I love the movie Waking Life, for example. Like anything that's like philosophical, or just like just like super weird. Anything that's like really different. Like I just like people that make an effort to stand out. I think because again I just feel that so much of Hollywood is so homogenized. And then when a big budget Hollywood movie stands out, it's even better. Like Cloud Atlas, I fucking loved that movie. So many people hated it because I think they just didn't understand it. And it's one of those movies I feel you have to watch twice to actually understand, which I also love in a movie. I'm like, make me think. Make me wonder what the fuck. Like, I don't want it to be easy to follow. I don't want to be able to guess everything that's going to happen. Then I could have just written it myself and, I don't know. It's just like, Cloud Atlas is amazing. Weird movies are amazing. And, like, you know what I mean? But that's, again, it's a broad category. Because, like, weird movies. Okay, so, like, Eraserhead also. Like, that kind of, like...
Yeah.
I like just everything weird. Then, what else? Oh, this was funny. I just, I think, like, something about, like, all the serious sci-fi movies is that I find they're generally always really sad. And I was kind of realizing one day that all of my favorite movies and all of my favorite books make me cry. Like, I can't watch Gattaca without crying, and I've seen it like 30 times, and every time I watch it, I fucking cry. And I said this to my friend Chuck one day. I said, why are all the best movies depressing? And he said, because all the best people are depressed.
Oh.
Which is fucking true. I was just like, damn it. So I don't know if that's a genre. Movies that make me cry. That's one of my favorite genres of movies.
Sad movies.
So, and you listed feel-good movies, and I'm like, I want the opposite. I want to be devastated.
Fair enough. And at times I like those. I'm all over the place, you know. Sometimes I want to think, sometimes I don't want to think. So,
yeah,
you know, that's yeah.
I do also enjoy feeling good. So I'll put comedies in there. I think we're at number 5, and I'll specifically say like cult comedies, like the Kevin Smith films, and like just all like the kind of quirky films that became like cult films. You know, I'm trying to think of like what else I had in my collection that would have had fit into that category, but. They don't even necessarily have to be underground films, because there's even Hollywood movies that just kind of got that status of being like, it's just like a specific group of weirdos who become obsessed with this movie because it's like got this quirky thing that everyone attaches themselves to. And those are the types of comedies that I tend to gravitate towards, because again, mainstream comedies I typically don't like because they're dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you. Alright, let's go through plants. Okay. Admittedly, I'm not a plant person, so...
I'm such a plant person.
I can go through mine quick.
Okay.
Is marijuana a plant, or is it the hemp plant?
I think marijuana is a plant.
For sure, my number 1.
I think cannabis is the technical name.
Cannabis,
plant,
okay.
Right?
We just call it weed, Bones.
Yeah, we can just call it weed.
Weed plant.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so yeah, marijuana, and then I legit Googled some shit because I like some things, but I was like, is it a plant? Are flowers plants? Like, obviously, you're into plants. You're like, of course, fucking flowers are plants, Paul. But for me, I was like, I don't know.
That's actually adorable.
So daisies, daisies number 2.
Okay.
My favorite flower, eucalyptus.
Nice.
For obvious,
That's a good one.
reasons.
Yeah.
Sunflowers.
That's another good one.
They're good to look at. They're good to eat.
Totally.
And then the cocoa tree. Trees are plants, right?
Yeah.
Shit.
For sure.
I learned that shit.
Good job.
I didn't know a tree was a plant. Yeah, chocolate. You know what I mean? You don't do a lot of chocolate, or you're more dark chocolate?
So
maybe?
I do, but I only do dark chocolate and only fair trade and only from specific places because a lot of chocolate. Anyway, but whatever.
I don't like Nestle.
I do eat chocolate.
I'll say that.
I don't eat Nestle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been like really like into like gardening for a really long time, and that was another. I think that's one of the things again that stopped me from moving to Toronto, because for the last 15 years of my life, I've always lived somewhere that had a yard and a garden, and I always grew my own food all summer. Grew like medicinal herbs. I grow medicinal herbs and I dry them and save them and I make things out of them.
You have like a window, maybe you can like.
We're planning on at least getting an herb garden at this place for sure. And like and I've always had like a lot of house plants, but like, gardening I love and foraging I love. So I'm excited to start like learning what kind of plants I can find in the city, like what I can forage. Because there's a lot of plants that people don't realize are edible and medicinal and stuff, that like a lot of like weeds are actually really like beneficial. And so I'm hoping that Toronto will be good for that. I haven't really like, I just moved here, so it hasn't been.
Well, it's getting warmer.
It's starting to be spring. I'm getting excited to check it out.
Yeah.
But I think like number 1 favorite plant, I'm gonna say aloe vera.
Okay.
Because it's just got so many uses. Like you can eat it, and it's just so rich in like a million vitamins, minerals, like antioxidants, like it's anti-inflammatory, it's an antihistamine, it's antibacterial, it's and like it heals burns, and you can also just use it for like it moisturizes your skin and your hair. You can use it for various skin conditions. You can like eat it, put it on your face, put it on your hair, put it on your burns. It's such an amazing plant.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to grow. And you have an aloe plant, and it's the easiest plant to propagate because they just have babies. And then you just take that baby, put it in a new pot, and it grows, and then it has a baby. And then you just do that. So my last place, I at one point had like 30 aloe plants. And then when the pandemic first happened, and there was like a hand sanitizer shortage, and someone was posting that you can like make it out of your own like aloe, I was like, I got that! I was on it!
Ready.
Yeah. So yeah, I love aloe. And then number 2, I'll pick a native plant, a weed that I was talking about. So lamb's quarters, is a weed that grows everywhere. And
I don't know what that is.
it's like, I don't know. I could try to describe it. It's got like leaves that are like kind of curly almost. Like they're almost like serrated, but like not as sharp as other leaves that are.
I'll show a photo.
They've got like there we go. We go. But it grows everywhere. Most people just pull it out thinking it's a weed, and it can be a weed. If you don't thin it, it will take over. So if you just like leave lamb's quarters on a corner, they're gonna be the only plant on that corner. But if you just pull them occasionally, then they won't. They're not as invasive as some other plants. But they've got the same nutrient properties as spinach, and they're like super easy to grow, obviously, because they just grow on their own everywhere. Mm-hmm. So I mean, if you're poor and you don't want to fucking buy food and you're trying to be healthy, man, like you just walk around your neighborhood and just pick lamb's quarters everywhere you go, and it's not at all toxic. But if it's raw, some people find that it's hard to digest, so most people would cook it. And then it's not even remotely harmful. But even raw is not harmful. It's just like you might have like a bit of a tummy ache, which I never did. It just depends on how the person and how it affects you. But it's super healthy, super nutrient rich, and it's everywhere. Lamb's quarters I love. I ate like last summer I fucking ate that every single day. And then another wild plant that is good, well, both good and not good for foraging is stinging nettle. So most people know it as like, again, a weed because it's everywhere, and also you touch it and it stings, so you do have to be careful about how you harvest it. But it is edible, and it also has a similar nutrient property to like spinach. But it's also medicinal, and it like can heal like so many various ailments and illnesses, and it's anti-inflammatory, which is great for me these days. Mm-hmm. So you can make like teas out of it. You can make like tinctures and compresses and put it directly on like injuries, and it'll like help heal, and it helps with like joint pain, helps with like arthritis. It's so sick. And I just love that these plants are just like everywhere, and they're just free, and people just like don't even know about them. And I especially love stinging nettle because when I had that massive garden I was talking about, like the huge house, it was like a giant yard, and we had these big parties, these big fires, and I was always like, look, my yard is huge. You can piss literally anywhere in the yard except for in my food, okay? Yeah. Like, piss anywhere else. There's so much space. Piss over there, I don't fucking care. Just don't piss in my food. Sure enough, people get drunk. They piss on my fucking food. So I made a border around my garden of stinging nettle. And if you're walking through that to rock a piss and you get stung, buddy, I told you not to go over there. That was just like sweet justice for me. It made me so happy. I'm like, thank you, plant friends, for helping defend the other plant friends. Okay, so what did I say? Is it 3 so far?
I think so, yeah.
What else? Other plant. I love so many plants. Moonflowers, I'm gonna say. There's like a bunch of different varieties of moonflowers, but they're typically white flowers, occasionally yellow, but they bloom at night. So most plants are closed at night and they open during the day for the sun. Moonflowers close during the sun hours and they open for the moon.
My kind of flowers.
Yes. I am a full-blown vampire. I am awake all night. I sleep all day. When I came here, I was eating breakfast on the way here. Like, I just fucking woke up. Yeah. So I used to always garden at night, and I had these big floodlights and stuff that I would take outside with me, and so that I could work on the garden at night. And then I would plant moonflowers all throughout the garden so that they'd be in bloom while I'm out there. And it was and they're so pretty. And there's a bunch of different varieties of moonflower, but one of them is actually tobacco. Tobacco blooms at night. So I did plant a ton of tobacco at my third last garden. And I was going to like make my own cigarettes. I had this whole big plan. I have so many big plans that never happen because I'm always doing so many things. But by the time I researched how you would even go about doing that, like I was growing it, and then I researched like how you even, and they were like, oh, you have to harvest it like early in the season, and I'm like, oh, too late. It's already like, because most plants you harvest later, and anyway, if you want to smoke it, I guess it needs to be earlier. I forget why, but so I never made my own cigarettes. But the moonflowers are really pretty. Tobacco was gorgeous anyway, so it's still nice to have. What else? Oh my god, there's so many. Okay, I gotta narrow it down for number 5. I'll just go with heirloom tomatoes, even though I can't eat them anymore.
See, I was avoiding vegetables, but I do love a lot of vegetables. We definitely came at this.
Plants. Just so you know, they are totally plants.
Yeah. No.
And that's my favorite kind of.
I was just coming at it from a different angle.
Of like, what do you think is pretty? Well, I like that's why I like
Yeah,
moonflowers. Moonflowers
okay.
are pretty and vampiric, like myself. So they're not. I don't eat them, but I was gonna smoke them. But I do like plants that are pretty. But I also I'm more like into plants
What
that I
else
can
the multi-purpose like things
eat
that
or
can
use
help
like
you
medicinally.
beneficial.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because I'm just really into this idea of like learning how to be sustainable, learning how to live off the land. If the system were to crumble, people like me are going to be in a lot better shape than people who are like, what are plants? I'm sorry, I have to. Sorry.
That's okay. I'm a chef. I'm gonna cook your plants.
All right.
know?
That's a good deal.
Did you do 5? Yeah.
I think so.
right.
At least. I could keep going. There's so many plants. We'll stop there.
Superheroes. I'll go through mine quick because I do them literally every episode. It's like
you
my
do?
way of bringing my guests into my world.
Okay.
So Batman, Ninja Turtles. Yes, I consider them one.
Damn right.
Okay,
one, yeah.
Red Hood,
I was like, damn right, they're superheroes, but yeah, they're also one.
Arsenal, and then
What was your third one?
Red Hood.
Red Hood. Who's Red Hood?
Yeah, Red Hood is like an ex-Robin, who like he supposedly got killed by Joker, and then he comes back and he's like angry at Batman at first, but then and he just develops. He's not Robin. He's his own character, you know.
Okay.
Arsenal's the same, but he was like the ex-sidekick of Green Arrow, and then when he left, he just became his own. Yeah.
Those are some deep dives.
Yeah.
All right.
So and Spider-Man is my number 5.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spider-Man's on my list too, for sure. Yeah, again, it's like I haven't really... Superheroes aren't like something I think about a lot these days, but I was really into them when I was younger, but it was like...
I've had people say family members or friend
cute.
or wrestler. Like it's not traditional,
way.
you know. Yeah.
Well,
it's
I mean,
alright.
I do like some traditional ones. I do like Spider-Man for sure, and I at one point I randomly made this Spider-Man costume, and it's like super ghetto. I took like blue. I took long johns and dyed them blue, and then I have like a pair of like red like granny panties that I wear over that. And like a red like long sleeve shirt, and I made like those like dollar store gloves, and I always make them into hobo gloves anyway, but I bought red ones and made those into it. And what else? And then I had like a little balaclava thing with the webbing on it. And then I had like big tall red like NPS boots. So it was just like the most ghetto, but it looked like the one he made himself.
Yeah, that's awesome.
When he did the wrestling thing. But I just made that out of the blue one day. It wasn't even for Halloween. I was just like, I just want to do this, and
this
I just like
sweet.
I just wore it to like a bar, and everyone else was dressed normal, and I was like, how cool am I though? And then I kept doing it. I rocked it for like a year. I was like super into that. I was like, Ghetto Spider-Man, and I started wearing it everywhere. And I was playing in a band at the time called Some Kind of Wonderful, and I'd wear that on stage playing theremin, and I would just wear it like, all the time. And then one day my friends and I were sitting around bored, looking for something to do, and I was like, you guys should make ghetto superhero outfits also, and villains, and then we should go have epic battles on the rooftops. And they were like, yeah, okay. So we did. We just went through my friends' closets, pulled out all the pantyhose and whatever and underwear, and just like put together ghetto outfits for each of them. We made Venom and Carnage. Who else? And then Holly was like Green Lantern weirdly for some reason, so it was a crossover. And then there was like, I don't know. But anyway, and we literally went out and did that. We literally went out and like had like epic battles on like the rooftops of St. Catharines, just at random. And this was like, I miss doing shit like that, because this was before Instagram and TikTok, and I think Facebook had just started to become a thing, but no one really cared. So it wasn't like we weren't like making content. We didn't like give a fuck. Mm-hmm. We were just like doing it. Yeah. We were just like, this is just a silly fucking thing to do, Nowadays, everything's like, ooh, we're gonna be good at TikTok.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, I still have the Spider-Man outfit, so we'll pull it out one day.
Definitely gotta see that.
So we'll put him at number 1, and then like I said, when I was a kid, like we were mainly just like really into Marvel, so I was super into like the X-Men. I was obsessed. I still have a Sega Genesis, and my favorite video game still to this day is X-Men for Sega Genesis. Mm-hmm. It's so good. Mm-hmm. And Wolverine is the funnest character to play in that game because he just fucks shit up and he has the coolest moves. And you can just fucking race through that level and just slash the shit out of everything, and it's so easy and it's so fun. And then he dies. And then you have to use one of the other characters. You're like, oh, this is hard now. I should have saved Wolverine for the end.
Yeah,
you always want to like use him up first. And you're like, but yeah, I don't know. So I don't know. I'll put Wolverine in there, but then I also have to put Storm because Storm is so fucking badass. She's so punk, and she's like, obviously like yay for like strong women representation and like strong black women, and she's also like an ancient like priestess, like she comes from a line of like witch priestesses, and she was also the queen of the Morlocks at one point, which is punk as fuck. Like I love Storm. So we'll put her at number 3, and then
I love the X-Men too.
Nice. And then I'm gonna go with Spawn because he's so badass.
Yeah.
He's a creature of the night, much like myself, and he's got that fucking cape and those chains. They just look so cool. Spawn and Captain Planet.
Fucking Captain.
Because he has a mullet and he cares about the environment, and me too.
That's awesome, and that's a great segue into our childhood shows.
Oh yeah.
And although Captain Planet's not on mine, I did really love that show.
It was so good.
Do you want to start with childhood shows?
Okay. I was gonna say Ninja Turtles.
All right.
That was one of your favorite superheroes. Yeah. That's such a good show.
That's on my list too.
It was so good. Ninja Turtles, the animated X-Men series, which I had several copies of that on VHS, which I just sold as part of my whole collection, and I had one that was even narrated by Stan Lee himself, and it was so cool. That show was so good.
It was a great
and
show.
that fucking song.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
So good.
There's some good metal versions of it too.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've often thought it'd be fun to cover, and then I figured someone's probably done it, but I haven't looked that up to see who has. I should. So that, Turtles, X-Men. Gargoyles.
Yeah.
Gargoyles was so cool. It was goth as fuck. You can't do that on television.
That's what it was called?
Yeah. You don't remember that show?
No.
So it was a children's sketch comedy show. And it was before I even understood what sketch comedy was. Like when I first saw that show, I'd never even seen like Saturday Night Live or anything. And now that I'm older, I appreciate it even more. Because I'm like, oh my god, it was so weird. It was so fucking weird. And it was Canadian. And it was filmed in Ottawa. But it got picked up by Nickelodeon. And it was their biggest, most popular show to the point that like their Nickelodeon logo, that slime logo, that slime comes from that show. Comes from You Can't Do That on Television.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's worth revisiting. I feel. I haven't.
I'm interested. I have to see it now.
I feel like I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I need to go find it and rewatch it because I haven't since I was a kid, and I hope it's as good as I'm remembering it. But it was so weird, and it's just like, yeah, quality like kids show. You know, it's different. Okay, I need a fifth. What else? This isn't like necessarily a kid's show, but it was one of my favorite shows as a kid, Beavis and Butthead.
Oh yeah.
I found that show at probably far too young of an age.
I love it.
And I still, to this day, it's like one of the great. I love it so fucking much. Yeah.
Everything, even when they brought it back and were making fun of fucking Jersey Shore.
That was so funny.
I still liked it.
It was so good.
They're bringing it back again.
Oh no way.
Yeah, but I heard that they're gonna be like. Do you remember in the movie? How you saw like a glimpse, I think it was the movie, but a glimpse of them as adults. You've probably seen it in a few episodes, but they're going to be, I think they're going to be adults.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, I don't know, but Judge is involved,
I was just
so
gonna say,
it's
if it's
going
still
to be
my
good.
Judge, it'll be good.
Yeah.
I was just going to say the same thing. Yeah, no, that's exciting. I'm just sad that a lot of the old episodes, that was another thing that I did have a few episodes on VHS that I've just parted with, but like, you can find them online now, but not with the music videos in them.
Mm-hmm. Because
it was like, at that point in time, MTV owned the rights to every single music video that they played on their station, they were allowed to use it in any show they wanted. So that's why there's a bunch of shows that like incorporated like music videos, because they just randomly had the rights to all this music. Whereas nowadays, if you were making a show, like you wouldn't be able to get away with making something like Beavis and Butthead because you'd have to pay for the individual rights to each each video, right?
They have it on like DVD. Like I have it on DVD, the whole series.
Did it come with the music videos or no?
There's like special features where you can watch like the music videos.
Oh, okay.
You know, I was gonna say, they're little because they're like completely different, separate parts, so they would just like cut and
yeah.
into the show.
I'm just glad they're still available because I
Yeah.
saw that MTV put all the old episodes
It's
up.
definitely not all of them, but
They put all the old episodes up, but they put them up without the videos, and I was assuming that was to do with a rights thing where they'd have to pay more now.
it definitely has to be
use it or
some rights
something.
thing because the newest season they still show on the DVDs. They still show all the clips of like Real Life and Teen Mom.
Because that's
and shit
what's
like
currently
that.
on MTV, so that's what they
Yeah.
currently have the rights to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But the videos were honestly probably the funniest part. Like, the whole show was hilarious, but like the videos, man, yeah. I need to find like, I guess I need to get the DVDs.
It's good. It's honestly it holds up pretty fucking well, man. Even though like the really older episodes, like okay, it's not the best animation, but it's still gonna make you laugh. That makes it even better.
Yeah. The fact that it's not good animation, it's like that's inspiring and motivational to someone like us who's like just starting out as comedians and artists and entertainers. It's like, you don't have to have a fucking ton of funding or a bunch of people behind you to do something. You want to do it, just learn how to do shitty animation or just learn how to do shitty whatever and just do it. Just get it out there. And like, that's just proof that like you can make something amazing with nothing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm still listening, right. How many did I say? That was 5. I think that was 5. I just said TNT, X-Men, You Can't Do the Television, Gargoyles, and Beavis and Butthead. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna go with. I think now that I'm thinking about it again, I'm gonna change one, but I'll tell you one when I get to it. Batman the Animated Series is my number 1. I watched it like last year from the beginning to the end.
I dug that show too.
The Ninja Turtles, same one that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Inspector Gadget.
Oh man, I forgot about Inspector Gadget. That show was fun. It always frustrated me though, because Penny does all the work and Gadget gets the credit.
It's a pain in the
ass,
and every
episode
right?
I'm just like, why?
Like, acknowledge them. You
you
know? Yeah, no, totally. And then number 4, I'm going to go Monday Night Raw, which is a wrestling thing.
Okay.
I'm a huge fucking wrestling guy.
Okay.
I'm like I'm referee training right now.
No way.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming.
I did like my very first 15-minute match. Was it yesterday even? What day is today? Thursday.
We have the same brain. I was doing the same thing. I'm like, was that yesterday? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it was Wednesday.
Yeah.
So I do things on Tuesday and Wednesdays with them when I do training. So
cool.
Yeah, I'm hoping to actually this was like a mock match, but I'm probably going to be doing my first event in May.
Okay.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully it actually happens, but it seems like it's going in the right direction. It's been a lot of fun. I love wrestling, and I'm definitely not the kind of guy. I broke my back when I was a teenager.
Shit.
So I can't be a wrestler.
Yeah.
But I just want to be in the world, and I have friends that are wrestlers, so it's like I already had like a shoe in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
That'll be fun. Sure, why not?
So Monday Night Raw is number 4.
Okay.
And then my last one, I'm changing from Batman Beyond. So honorable mention to Batman Beyond. But when you were talking about what was the Canadian show that you said?
Oh, You Can't Do That on Television?
Yes, when you were talking about that, I was like, it made me think of something like YTV. And like, Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh,
I want to give
that
number
was a
5
good one.
to Are You Afraid of the Dark?
How did I forget about that show? That was
So you know the show, you're going to know who Dr. Vink is and that old creepy guy. So his name is Aaron Tagger, and he was like this amazing artist. Like, I mean, not just like an actor, but like he was a painter.
The name like rings a bell.
He was
I feel like
sculptor.
I've seen some of his art.
He passed away a few years ago before like COVID and stuff happened, but like he had, I've been to his place a couple times.
Oh, cool.
I actually bought I have one piece that he did over my bed. Like, it's fucking amazing. And just like the kind of passion that would come from you see people on TV and they like talk about their art, and there's just like they're just going through the motions. This guy's literally like telling me a story about how the thing that inspired him, and he's like tearing up, and like there's nothing but passion, and he was this kind of guy where like all the youngins would just kind of go to. He was really into theater, so he had a lot of young like theater kids that were always hanging around him, trying to soak up the wisdom.
Nice.
And he was just like the friendliest guy. Like, he had an art exhibition or whatever, he had an art show at his house.
Cool.
And like that was the first time I met him. I got him to sign my Are You Afraid of the Dark? It was like a nerd moment, but then after that he was just like, he just treated me like I didn't know him that well, and he was just such a humble and talented person.
That's the best. Aww.
And really like one of Toronto's truly like truly one of Toronto's greats, and like most people,
and just underappreciated.
They would recognize his face.
I was gonna say,
but they don't know his name.
Bell. Like when you say that name, I'm like, yeah, I've heard it. So I feel like I've probably seen some of his art, but now I want to look him up more because that sounds really awesome. Fuck yeah! I can't believe I forgot about that show. And then there was that whole vein of shows. There was like Goosebumps, like Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, Tales from the Crypt was good.
That was a good one.
Tales from the Crypt was actually like a little more scary. I think.
It was
more adult kind of like.
Yeah,
Are You
maybe
Afraid
you're
of That
right.
was like the kid version, but
yeah,
but they were both great.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Goosebumps wasn't as good, but that whole vein of shows was good.
I did watch Goosebumps
as a genre.
Though.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
All right, but I guess we'll get out of here, man. This is gonna be for sure the longest episode. And I'm super happy. I enjoyed the conversation. You know, we got a little heated there.
I was a little worried.
It's like, no, is she gonna? Yeah, all right. I'm glad. I'm glad
okay.
you claim.
I'm glad I came.
Glad you came. Give me another hug. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Right.
I had fun.
Let these people know where to get at you if you want.
So bonezpoley.com, BonezPoley, and that's also, I have that name on every single social media platform because I'm the only one. Also, I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to make a living in Toronto, and I've decided to pick up one of my old side hustles, which is cutting people's hair.
Oh.
I've cut my own hair for like 15 years, but I won't make you look like a calico cat who just got drunkenly attacked by a weed whacker. I want to look like this. I can do real, normal people hair. I have done it. I've cut many people's hair. I just cut Kyle Bergstra's hair the other day, if you know him. So that's going to be my new hustle. Comics, if you want cheap haircuts, or anybody, cheap haircuts in Toronto, hit me up. or also give me gigs. Or both. Okay, thank you.
Definitely both. Funny ass. Definitely check her out if you're unfamiliar. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like always, this podcast is brought to you by Neon Light District. Hit them up. Use code PillowTalk to save 10%. And by The Great North Apparel. Hit them up. Use code PillowTalk to save 30%. Get your tickets to the monthly show. Get your tickets to Lafiteria. Both are coming up. And we'll see you in 2 weeks, guys. Peace the fuck out.
Peace.